Yeah. Yeah, okay. All right, folks. We do have a quorum, and so we're going to go through some of our preliminary issues first, but I'm going to declare the annual town meeting to be reconvened for June 18th, 2025. I think, is my deputy moderator here? Hopefully he'll show up. We've appointed counters. Is the cameras on for cable TV? They are. Okay, the meeting is being recorded by Townsend Community Access Media, so you can review the event later in the comfort of your living room or dining room or wherever you put your television. We've had announcements. Thank you, Bill, for that. And thank you, Bill, for all the hard work Mr. Rideout, you and your committee have done for the rail trail. So I'd like a round of applause for Bill and the Squanico Greenways. Also, I'm going to add my own personal thanks to everyone that participated in the, I may have already done this, but participated in the March to Concord when Townsend recreated the March of the Minutemen upon receiving the Concord Alarm on April 19th, 1775. And we had over 74 young people bearing wooden muskets to replicate the 74 Minutemen that marched for the defense of Massachusetts Bay against the ministerial troops who were trying to seize the arms the colonists had assembled at Concord. And I want you to still bear in mind that we're in the 250th year anniversary of the battles of Lexington and Concord, and the Battle of Bunker Hill, which happened yesterday, 250 years ago. So we are hoping to have other events to commemorate these historic events. But I do want to just remind everyone that you're here in this town meeting is a direct descendant of the town meetings that fomented our movement away from a colony of the British Empire to being an independent country. And it was largely because the Crown and the ministers did not understand how independent Americans had gotten in the 150 years or so since the Pilgrims landed. So the town meeting was the thing they tried to suppress and prevent. So I just want you to appreciate the fact that you're in a long-standing tradition where the people govern, and we all have our part to do. Everybody works together. The Selectmen and the Finance Committee and the Board of Health have had an exceptionally difficult time this year, as you all know, and I know people are, many people, citizens are concerned and about everything in our town for education, finance, and even something as maybe trivial, or not trivial, as trash collection. So I'm just going to ask everybody to maintain their composure and be respectful to people, and hopefully we'll get through this meeting quickly. And I think the line is probably going down now. So we don't need a return of the warrant for the annual town meeting. Just to review, because this is a resumption of the town meeting that was adjourned or suspended to tonight. But I will identify the folks that are participating here. I'm John Barrett, the town moderator. We have Harrison Mayotte, the town clerk. Our town council, Adam Costa. The town select board is Laurie Schifrin, Veronica Kell, and Valerie Goodrich. Also, not necessarily in the right order, we have our finance committee. Don Hayes is the chairman. Well, I can do it. Carol Hofstas, Mary Jane Churchville, Mark Huzzy, Dave Walker, and Sam Grant. And I know members of the Board of Health are participating, and I believe is our town treasurer collector here, Melissa? Up there. All right, Melissa's up in the stands. Okay. We also have many department heads here. I'm not going to try to list everybody. So, reminder of the order of proceedings here. You need to be recognized before you speak. Raise your hand, and if I seem to be missing you, you can say, Mr. Moderator, if no one's speaking. Direct your comments to the chair and through the moderator. Any motions need to be in writing and presented to the clerk. and signed. If a matter is finally voted tonight, it may be reconsidered upon a majority vote if the motion to reconsider is made this evening. If the meeting goes into a second night, an article which has already been voted may be reconsidered upon a 9/10 vote. Votes are taken by ayes and noes. The moderator determines the outcome of a voice vote. If I'm in doubt, I will ask for a show of hands. If still in doubt, I may call for a standing count. If someone questions or doubts my call of the vote, if 7 people stand to ask for a count, we will count. But otherwise, if it appears from my review of the votes, we have a majority or 2/3 vote, if necessary, the tally would only be questioned by 7 voters that stand to question it. If you're confused about the situation on the floor or have a procedural concern, you can raise a point of order. You can interrupt the speaker, and once I recognize you, state your point of order, and we'll try to resolve the question. If there is anything that's interfering with your enjoyment of tonight's meeting, people are talking too loudly in front of you, and I hope everybody will try to avoid that and just listen to the people that are recognized to be speaking. Then you can interrupt the speaker and raise a point of privilege. You know, if suddenly the air conditioning goes out and it's too hot and you're fainting, let me know. Everybody knows what a motion to move the question is, I think, by now. The motion to move the question cuts off debate. It's been our practice that I will not recognize a motion to move the question that's made too soon. But we want to have a healthy debate. But if things start getting repetitious and we're going over the same ground, I may look for a motion to move the question or suggest that one be made. We've got a lot of business tonight, so I don't want to keep us any longer. Try to be courteous, keep applause to a minimum. Some towns don't allow it. In fact, in some towns, if you applaud something, they will have the constable arrest the person. So let's not have that happen in Townsend. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see. Tonight, we've opened the annual town meeting. We've got a strange series of things tonight for you folks, just to make life interesting. We have a special town meeting that we have to address. So, just so you give you a roadmap for tonight, we've resumed the annual town meeting, but we're shortly going to look for a motion to suspend or adjourn the annual town meeting to take up the special town meeting, because there are elements in the special town meeting that need to be dealt with before we deal with the budget, which is in the annual town meeting. We will go through Articles 1 through 4 of the special town meeting, and then go back to the budget and figure that out. After we've figured out the budget, and I believe voted on the HEROES Act articles, we will then adjourn the annual town meeting again and go back to the special town meeting, which we adjourned tonight, to deal with the last article, Article 5, which deals with an override vote. Once that vote is concluded, we will go back to the annual town meeting to finalize the budget. And Ms. Kell, you're looking quizzically at me. I believe we can. Yeah, I think but we won't adjourn the annual town meeting until we know what's going on with the vote on the Article 5 of the special town meeting. Because we might have to, depending on what happens on that vote, we might have to come back to the annual town meeting to deal with the budget. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, the budget, obviously there may be questions about the budget, but the budget as currently configured is dependent on the override. No, it's not? It is not. Okay. So the special town meeting, though, will be dealing with the issue of trash collection and a special fund for the trash collection, right? Okay. All right. So, right, the override but that's going to be dependent on what happens on the budget, right? No. Okay, all right. Well, then, I guess we can get through the annual town meeting. If you want to adjourn the town meeting, then just go to the special? Okay, okay, all right, so that's what I thought we were going to do, so, okay. So, I am now, if you're not thoroughly confused, like I am, I will look for a motion to adjourn, i.e. suspend the annual town meeting to take up the special town meeting. Is there a motion? So, okay, all right, motion's been made and seconded to adjourn the annual town meeting. And all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Okay. That's just postponing the town meeting. We'll come back to that. Now we're ready to take up the special town meeting. Mr. Mayor, is there a return of the warrant for the special town meeting?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Pursuant to the within warrant, I have notified and warned the inhabitants of the town of Townsend by posting up attested copies of the same at Memorial Hall, 272 Main Street at the Center, West Townsend Reading Room, 264 Dudley Road in West Townsend, Police Station, 70 Brookline Road, Harbor Fire Station, 41 Main Street, and Harbor Church, 80 Main Street, at least 14 days before the date of the meeting, as within directed. Signed, Michelle Dold, Constable of the town of Townsend.
Yeah, Ms. Schifrin pointed out to me the fact that although we did salute the flag for the annual town meeting a month ago, we have not saluted the flag tonight. So unfortunately, the scouts weren't present. So I am going to call on the chief. Chief Sartell, would you lead us in the pledge? Justice for all. All right, so we've gone over everything, and special town meeting is convened June 18th, 2025 at 7:25. First article is to see if the town will vote to accept provisions of General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F and a half, establishing a solid waste and recycling collection and disposal services as an enterprise fund effective as of fiscal year 2026. Is there a motion? Yeah. Yep.
Dr. Christian Roman Ramirez, Chairman of the Board of Health. If I may, before we present the two articles that the Board of Health has presented, if I can present a brief presentation on what the public is going to vote on tonight so that they can be aware and responsible for the vote that they will be doing tonight.
Okay, first we need a motion. Yeah.
Can I make a
Okay.
motion to allow the Board of Health to present a present?
No, I'm sorry. We need a motion on the article, a motion to vote to accept the Chapter 44, Section 53F and a half.
No, what I mean is that before voting, I wish to present the presentation so that the public can be informed.
After the motion. Okay, yeah, so the select board, you
Okay,
run it?
I'll make the motion.
Yeah.
I move that the town vote to accept the provisions of General Law C-44, S-53F and a half, establishing solid waste and recycling collection and disposal services as an enterprise fund effective as of fiscal year 2026.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Now, Dr. Ramon Ramirez, you can make your presentation.
If you can go ahead, Nelson. So good evening, everybody. I'm Dr. Christian Roman Ramirez. I'm the chairman of the Board of Health. Before we vote on this article presented by the Board of Health, I want to do a presentation that we did on a public hearing that we did as part of the requirements for creating the enterprise account. I am not an accountant, but I will try to my best to be as clear as possible of what is the enterprise account and all these things that entailed. And I think the town accountant is here, that she's able to add a little bit more onto what it is, okay? Next presentation. So there's a challenge going on with the trash situation going on, which is having the trash on the town budget, which our goal is have consistent funding, removing the trash from the levy of the town. The challenge resident budgets the goal is for the people to have affordable trash disposal pickup. The challenge with the public health, the goal is for us to prevent infestations and illness. Clean community as a challenge, the goal is to prevent illegal dumping. Stability as a challenge, create a long-term plan. Environmental, prevent water and air pollution. And accessibility, make it easy for the public. Next. The strategy is remove the curbside trash and recycling from the tax levy or from the Board of Selectmen and to move it to the Board of Health using a solid waste and recycling enterprise account. And in the handouts that we provided, there's a question and frequently asked questions. And the first question is, what is an enterprise fund? And why do we need one for curbside trash and recycling? An enterprise fund is a separate accounting and financial reporting mechanism for municipal services for which a fee is charged in exchange of goods or services. It establishes a separate accounting and financial reporting mechanism for a specific service such as water or trash disposal. As a result of the fiscal challenge facing Townsend as we head into fiscal year 2026, the Board of Health and the Finance Committee are recommending removing town curbside trash and recycling from the operating budget and utilizing an enterprise fund instead. This ensures that the residents of Townsend will maintain a healthy and stable curbside trash and recycling program no matter what budgetary shortfalls arise in the future. What is the process to create an enterprise account? Voters will ask to decide on Article 1 to establish a solid waste and recycling enterprise fund that will go into effect on the fiscal year 2026, which begins on July 1st, 2025. In addition, voters will be asked to decide on Article 2 to approve the proposed operating budget for the enterprise fund, including a one-time subsidy from stabilization in order to launch the new program while maintaining affordability for residents. What happens if the enterprise fund article passes? The enterprise fund will be managed by the Board of Health, who is the state-mandated legal authority on solid waste disposal. Curbside trash and recycling will continue uninterrupted for residents. There will be a small grace period to allow residents to obtain receptacle stickers from the Board of Health. What happens if the enterprise fund article fails? If the enterprise fund articles are not accepted by voters, curbside trash and recycling will no longer be offered as a town service to Townsend residents. Every household will be required to contract privately for trash disposal, which will cost residents more. Eliminating town trash services increases risk of water and air pollution, as well as infestation and ultimately a public health emergency. Returning to the slide, number 2, continue with the Pay As You Throw Back program for fiscal year 2026 to access available grant funds and gather important data to best plan for the next steps. So it is going to be important on this initial phase for us, for the people, to subscribe to this program, and at the same time, we will be gathering data to forecast for the next fiscal year on the steps that the Board of Health will take regarding adjusting fees or any other related things. Add a small fee to fund and maintain current level of services. In fiscal year 2026, the fee will be subsidized to allow more residents the opportunity to continue townwide trash service. Next presentation, please. So here we have the Solid Waste and Recycling Enterprise Fund. We have the Pay As You Throw Back receipts, $360,000. The user fees, $225,000. The Pay As You Throw grant funds, $31,000, giving a total of $616,000. On July 2025 we have a contract extension for Shaw's, which we submitted to legal for July and August, $58,000. And then the program will start on September 2025 until June 2026, giving a number of $399,150. The trash tonnage for September, from September 2025 to June 2026 will be $119,175. The recycling tonnage that has been forecast from September 2025 to June 2026 will be $92,000. The administrative stipend will be $3,000. The receptacle stickers for the creation, $6,000. Other mailing, education and materials, etc., $4,324. And we will have a low-income assistance program for those that are not able to afford the program, $5,000. That will be leaving us for an extra unforeseen balance of $15,000, giving a subtotal of $759,649. For that, we have the indirect for the salary, administrative benefits, Medicare retirement for the employee, $16,351, giving a subtotal of $776,000. And which we will be voting also the surplus for the deficit of $160,000, which is budgeted to be transferred from stabilization, excuse me. I'm sorry. Next page. So as you see here, this is the projections that we have for the whole year, for the whole fiscal year. And the Board of Health, if this is approved by the town, we will be monitoring this projections monthly. Why? In order to avoid or make any corrective actions if it is needed. Next, please. So the household savings. Right now, the people that are private for 2 bags a month, they're paying $45 per month. Per year, that is $540 per year. Cost of the town with the Pay As You Throw bags and the unlimited recycling with a $125 fee, which is one fee and is voluntary, with the 2 bags at $84 per year, the cost for our people will be $209 per year, having a savings of $331 per year. If you use 4 bags, for example, the number is the same. The only thing is that the people with the pay-as-you-throw program with the bags, with 4 bags, will be $168 a year, giving a total of $293 per year, with a projected savings of $247 a year. Ain't that a bargain? Ain't that a bargain? Next, please. The projections of 125 fee are based target enroll of 85% of currently participating households, which means that we come up with the numbers based on a conservative number of 1,800 families, conservatively. And if we Google on the census of the town, it's, I think, 3,000 and something families here. So we just base this number on a conservative number. Pay-as-you-throw grant funds for fiscal year 2025, stipends, stickers, mailings, and any other additional fees for 2026 expenses. The 2026 pay-as-you-throw grant funds will be applied towards the 2027 program expenses. The Board of Health would establish an assistance program, which I mentioned before, for the user fee. The TEO, the Townsend Ecumenical Outreach, has agreed to assist its members with fees. And the Board of Health will collect data such as participating households, trash tonnage, and recycling tonnage during the pilot program to plan for fiscal year 2027. Next, please. Any questions? On your packet with the Board of Health, I added, we have the most common questions, and I added also the questions that our select board member, Veronica Kell, had asked us via email, which her questions have been addressed on the packet that everybody has as well.
Okay, thank you. I think what I hope to do tonight is to get any feedback from the Finance Committee, as they have been involved with this, and comments from the Select Board, and then take up general questions. So does the Finance Committee have any report on this article?
We had no report, but we have been working hand in hand with Board of Health. We support what they're trying to do. They're trying to supply a lower cost option to the town members, and we support that. And I think the fact that we're recommending $160,000 come from the stabilization fund is important. Also, we know that the stabilization fund needs to be there in emergencies, but we used it last year for trash. This year is another trash. I won't call it an emergency, but it's getting close if we don't have trash available for pickup, and it does support the lower cost. So we're not trying to take the $160,000 and put it in there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hayes. The Board of Selectmen, any comments?
Got it. All right, so you have in your packet, thank you. You have in your packet numbers for the year. I have more than one question. The first one is, last year we took 130 or so for trash. This year we're taking 160K for trash from stabilization. That's what will be voted on in Article 2 if in fact that's to happen. if you look at the numbers, the second year of the program also requires that 160,000. So my first question is, how, if I look at the numbers for the revenue and the expenses, at the end of the year, you have about 15,000 or so left, correct?
So let me clarify that. The only time that we're going to use the funds for stabilization is this fiscal year. On our projections, we're not projecting utilizing any money or any transfers based on the projections that we did. That's why we are going to evaluate what's coming in order to project whatever needs to be done for the next fiscal year, so that we don't have to depend from any town for any monies from our budget. But I haven't said that on the next year we're going to use another money from stabilization.
But
Our projection is that we are seeking that people are going to enroll more to this program, that the program is going to be self-sustained, self-funded.
So if I look at this, you have 0 for July, 58 and 58 for August and September. So that is 116,000. And if you're paying 40,000 a month, that's 120 for those 3 months that you will need the following year, which you will need that money, at least 120,000 for startup funds for the following year. Perhaps there will be more than 1,800 families, but without that, I think there's a deficit rolling, and we're going to be looking at stabilization funds for a third year, and I don't expect that the budget that we receive from the schools will be 2.5% increase or less. And we could very well need those funds to run the town in fiscal year 27. So my question is, if this is short next year, and you do need to get funds from somewhere, and your numbers don't fall out the way you're hopeful, where will those come from? So that's just one question. The second question is, if there's a shortfall during the year, in other words, 1,800 families decide they're not going to pay the fee, they're not going to do the sticker, they're not going to do the pay-as-you-throw. And I'm one of the people that has done pay-as-you-throw this year, and I wouldn't mind this working. However, I have concerns about what happens if the funds aren't there. Is the Board of Health going to be writing a check somehow, asking the people who are part of the program for additional funding over the 125 during the course of the year? Or is there an out in the contract so that if it doesn't work out financially, the contract can be canceled quickly with a grace period for paying the funds, so that we, the town, have time to raise what we need to or find other places to get it? And I'm asking this because in December of this past year, the trash program was short $200,000, and the Department of Revenue required the town to come up with $200,000 in order to keep the trash program running. We came up with those funds by taking a lot of ARPA programs and canceling them, and diverting those funds to trash. We had to do that by the end of December. I at least, and I'm speaking for me as a resident of this town and as a select board member, I don't want to see DOR coming in December saying we need 200,000 more money in that trash program. And it's the Board of Selectmen who is going to be responsible for finding those monies. I'm wondering if the Board of Health feels any responsibility for that.
So that is why, as I mentioned before, the Board of Health will be monitoring what is coming in and these projections monthly. Why? So that we can come up with alternative solutions for that, but not eliminating the trash program for the people. To be honest, I don't have a crystal ball to predict But what I can say is that we, the Board of Health, will be monitoring the enterprise fund, and we will take the necessary provisions that should be done in order to avoid that situation that you're bringing, Ms. Selectman. So that is my best response out of this, out of your question. I hope it satisfies to you. But the Board of Health will be monitoring this fund and the projections so that we don't have to take any other alternatives, so that we can come up with a solution ahead of time.
Will the Board of Health be willing to charge the trash takers an additional fee if it is necessary to keep the program solvent during the year? And will the townspeople be willing to pay that additional fee?
If we have
That's
to
my
make,
question.
if we have to make any adjustments, that could be considered, but right now, we are open to all the alternatives. But if we have to make any adjustments, we will, but I don't want to go to that route as of yet, saying that tonight, no, we are gonna go to that route. We're gonna evaluate all the alternatives, even that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I know I had Ms. King, Laurie first, but Ms. King, do you have a comment?
Okay. I'd like to, if I could ask Nelson to go back on the slides to the slide that has the fees, and that one, yes. I have a concern, well, I have some concerns about this program. I support it. First, I want to say I do support it. I know very well, I've lived here for over 43 years, and I know the townspeople want to keep curbside trash as part of the town of Townsend and not make it required to go outside. I support whatever efforts we have to make that happen. I want to be very clear that the concerns I have are concerns. They're not me trying to end it. But I do have, some of the concerns I have is some of the math here. On here you have that 2 bags, 2 bags per week is plus...
Per month.
2 bags a month? But the 64 gallons is a week. No, 2 large bags per month. Excuse me. Listen, I'm privately contracted with Shaw's right now. It's $45 a month for 2 64 gallons, 2 large bags per week. It's $540 for 2 32-gallon barrels per week for $45 a month. That's $500. That's correct. The private pay through Shaw's is $540 a year for 40. I'm bringing up my slides here. For 2 bags per week, it costs $45 a month. Take it right out of your credit card, really easy. No purple bags. You put up here that the cost for doing the two people that put 2 bags a week out, it's going to cost through the town, 2 purple bags a week is $7 times 52 is $364. $7 times 52. You put 2 purple bags out a week. People who put 2 purple bags out a week is $364 plus 125 is $489.
Hold on, folks. If you'd like to make a comment about it, please be recognized.
I'm still
After
talking.
she's done, sir. Yeah.
So it's
And after Ms.
$489
Shepherd.
a year to put out 2 bags a week, 2 32 the big purple bags are 32 gallons. The average 32 gallons times 2 is 64. You put 2 bags out a week, it's $7. That's $3.50 a bag, that's $7 a week. Times 52 weeks. You do that every week for 52 weeks. That's $364 per year. Plus the $125 trash fee makes that $489. Not any of these other numbers. None of these numbers are up there. But Shaw's is $5.40 for a year for 64 gallons per week. It's not per month. You don't put 64 gallons out a month, you're wasting your money at $45 a month. You put, for those who, the average user, when we were calculating this pay to throw at the very beginning, the estimate that they had determined through Waste Zero was 1.5, the average household was doing 1.5 purple bags per week, is how the numbers have come up. Before people started bailing, the average was 1.5 bags per week. So with private, you could put out two 32-gallon barrels or bags or whatever you got for $45 a month for $540 a year. To do it with the town, the two 32-gallon bags or barrels is $489 with the $7 per week for 52 weeks, plus the $125 trash fee. So, and then I do have some concerns. One thing I'm very concerned about is the first month. I see that you've kind of delayed a little bit into the first month, but right now there's no large purple bags available because the select board canceled the contract. So you can't get any large purple bags probably to the end of this month, if I understand what happened at your public hearing. So the first month's numbers are going to be skewed because I've talked to a few people here today, and they're holding on to their trash until the purple bags are available. So our June revenue is going to be way down because people can't buy them, so they're not going to. And then the little bags cost twice as much, so they're going to be waiting till July to buy them. And they're waiting to see what happens tonight. So that's all I have to say, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. Comments? Now, I had recognized Ms. Schifrin. All right, maybe then Dr. Roman Rivera, if you can address those.
Sure. So
points.
on the projections, there's for 2 large bags a month and 4 large bags a month. I want to clarify that because there are people that probably, I mean, in my household, I use 1 purple bag per week. I use 1 purple bag per week.
Doctor, could I interrupt you just a second? Because I've got a question. What does 2 large bags at the top mean? Is that 2 large 64-gallon bags? Is that
Yes.
2 32-gallon?
The 64-gallon bags, that's what we're referring to on the presentation.
Is that the same as the purple bags? Are those 64?
Those are the purple bag, I mean,
The large purple bags, I mean.
They're 32.
Okay. Is that the case,
so,
Doctor?
So I'm kind of visual. So my trash can, which is this big, right, this big, I use one of the big bags, which is the purple bags, the large purple bags. That's what we use, which is the 5-pack costs 17 something at either a supermarket or any place that where you want it. Those are the bags that I'm referencing to.
Okay, we've got a couple other comments. I know there's a gentleman here that wanted to speak, and maybe he went back to his seat. But I guess, Ms. Priest?
I think you were going to...
Oh, I'm sorry, Laurie, you were next. Yeah.
I was going to let the guy talk first. I want to put a different spin on this. We have over 3,400 households, and the Board of Health did take a very conservative amount by using 1,800. Most of us want to keep trash. We'd like to have our trash picked up. Most of us have lived here for decades and have had our trash picked up. I'm in favor of having trash pickup for all the reasons that you stated. I want to think positively, and then I want to come back to stabilization, that there are going to be more than 1,800 that are going to still be on the program. You have your layout of month-to-month checking on what's going on, and if you have a shortfall, and you do have to have that clause in the contract to protect us as a town that we can pull out, okay? We've taken money now for 2 years in a row for trash from stabilization. This is not best practices. This is not recommended to do. Say you get 2,500 people on and you're making money every year. Will you put money back in stabilization? I'm saying the town is here to vote whether or not they're going to have the trash pickup or not. I'm hoping that you're successful and you're making money. The money should come back to stabilization so that we stabilize our town as well. That's my comment. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Schifrin. All right, Ms. Priest?
Thank you. Dawn Priest, 8 Pine Street. A couple of the questions, and actually town council might have some input on it, but I believe with an enterprise fund, when there's a deficit, it's addressed in the following fiscal year, so I wondered if we can factor that into the next fee. My understanding is that the fiscal 27 fee is going to be set based on the actual data collected during 26.
Correct.
So coming up with writing a check in December with DOR is not something that will happen with the enterprise fund. The other thing I just want to point out is last year, money wasn't only taken for trash. The trash bags were grossly overestimated as what the receipts would be. There were other factors that contributed to needing that extra money, but we had another $200,000 from ambulance receipts, $287,000 from ARPA, and $135,000 from stabilization. So that wasn't all trash's fault. And just for the voters to know, Mass Municipal Association, they recommend, and DLS, they recommend 5 to 7% of your operating budget in stabilization. And after doing this transfer, our finance committee recommends 8 to 10. We'll still be over 9% in our stabilization. And my other question would be, wouldn't we be able to start collecting fees earlier next year so that there's not a deficit in July, because that's a valid concern. But once this is established and it isn't under the gun like it is this year, wouldn't we open registration sooner?
Yes, it will be open registration sooner. And to address Select Woman Schifrin's comments, I think that the way that the Board of Health is promoting to return the money to stabilization is translating it in a service for the town, in a cheap service for the town. That's how we're going to translate the savings, because it's not going to be paid from the tax levy. It's going to be paid by the taxpayers' voluntary money from the enterprise account. An enterprise account that the Board of Health will be managing, and nobody will have hands to put that money, their hands in to take away any money.
Thank you, Doctor.
Hi, Chris Nosella, South Harbor Road. As far as you wanting money back from stabilization to give back to you guys, you remember we voted over $700,000 for trash pickup under overrides, which you have every right to take and use what you want. So we voted for that, to keep that money for trash. You guys use it any way you want. Now you want more back? I don't think that's a great idea. You're going to have to deal with it, guys. Thank you.
All right.
I just wanted to clarify for anyone that,
You want to?
sure, Kelly, 5 Taurus Lane. If you're a senior and you go with private, you don't have an option of, you're basically going to be spending $540 a year, regardless if you put one bag in there or fill it to capacity. The purpose of this slide here is to show kind of what an average user might use. So many of the seniors in town are probably using one bag every other week, which is what the left side is trying to show, not so much using to the maximum amount of the 2 bags. And if you are maybe a typical family, maybe 3, 4 people, you might be using 4 bags a month, which is what the right-hand side shows. In my household, we have 6 of us with, 4 kids, teens, young adults involved. We're probably under the situation that Cindy was referencing, where it's probably going to cost us the $489 or something close to it. So it's basically a wash for us, and yet at the same time, I'm going to be in support of this because I think overall, for the vast majority of the town residents, it is the cheaper option. So it makes no sense to me. It's a little extra effort maybe to get the sticker or buy the purple bags versus just putting it on my credit card or, paying Shaw's to come private. But the vast majority of town residents will benefit from this. And so I'm going to vote yes, even if it's pretty comparable to what the private amount is going to be.
Comments come on the motion, over on the other side?
Judy Lewin-Mader, Turner Road, Townsend. My question are very simple. One is, are we still going to need purple bags, or are we just having stickers? This is something that I think people are thinking about. So is it stickers? Is it bags? And are we going to get the bags at the supermarket, or are we going to get them from Board of Health? What's happening with the bags or the stickers?
Comments, questions come on the motion. Dr. Roman Rivera?
So for your question, the Board of Health has a projection at some point probably eliminating the purple bags. So, but for now, we are having that on the works, but for right now, no. And what was the other question?
I didn't say I said, is it stickers or purple bags?
It's going to be stickers and the purple bags. It's going to be both. So, because the sticker is a way of proving that that resident has paid the $125 fee. And if the resident doesn't have the sticker, even though they have the purple bag, unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to pick up the.
And how will they get the stickers?
So the stickers will be first of all, we will create a QR code for those who are modern with computers, so that they can purchase the sticker online. If not, you can come to the Board of Health office, where our health administrator, Carla Walters, will greet you, and she will give you the sticker. We are planning on doing some event on having, for example, a table that we're going to give for the people that have paid the stickers, so that we can run and implement the program as soon as possible.
And the only other thing I wanted to ask was, a lot of people, like on my street, are doing private, and is there a way that we should be doing something to try to encourage people, if we pass this, to have them come back into the fold and support the town, what the town is doing? Because I think we would get a lot more money if people would say, oh, I can do this for our town. Thank you.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Gentleman over there, Todd, I'll get back to you because he was up earlier. Go ahead, sir. What's your name?
Tyler Champagne, 18-seater. I like the program. I understand what you're proposing. Flat fee sticker, put it on the barrel, and then we buy the purple bags. Have we considered like a third option, maybe because you know how much is projected for the contract? Just anybody that wants to participate, just buy a sticker, and then we can get rid of the purple bags. It's kind of like group pricing for who wants to participate. I don't know if that's cheaper than private, but it might be.
Doctor, go ahead.
So we are looking forward for that, but for right now, since we're starting to implement the program, we want to continue with the bags, but it is in our radar to make adjustment at some point of eliminating the bags and adding it to that fee. But for now, the program will be funded from the one-time fee, which is a voluntary fee, plus the purchase of the purple bags.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Mr. Melanson.
Todd Melanson, 79 Clement Road. I've been involved with enterprise accounts now for at least 20 years, if not more, obviously dealing with water. They are best practice as outlined by Mass Municipal Association, by Division of Local Services. There's one other thing that it'll do for us. It will remove this hot potato political item every year. That's the whole point of the water enterprise account. It removes taking care of the water and producing the water and get from all the political backflow and play. If we don't do something like this, we're going to be here every year arguing the same thing. It's been this way since the last 8 or 10 years I've been involved with town meeting. I strongly urge you to vote in favor of creating an enterprise account as been suggested by the doctor over there. It will help us out immensely. Thank you.
Okay, folks. All right. I think we're getting near the end, so this article, so if
one
you
more.
make your comments. Your name?
Thank you. Mary Foster, Hillside Drive. I just want to say that I share the Select Board's concern for the use of the stabilization funds. Yes, I agree that Mass best practices refers to a 5 per 7% balance of general stabilization, but Mass best practices also refers to 5 to 7% of the annual budget in free cash. And we have, for all intents and purposes, 0 free cash. And I believe we have also cleared out the capital stabilization fund. So we have no free cash, no capital stabilization, and now we're dipping into general stabilization. And I'm wondering what the credit rating of the town, how that will be affected. What does Standard & Poor's and Moody's have to say about that? How's it going to affect our borrowing? What kind of an interest rate are we going to have on our debt? Because we have less and less emergency funds. And if we need a new truck, we cannot fund that through cash. We have to go out and incur debt. And I would love to have the Finance Committee speak to why you think it's okay to use general stabilization, as opposed to starting off this program with a $200 flat fee and minimizing use of stabilization.
Comments come on the motion. Does FinCom like to reply? If you're recognized, but you can't just, you got to come up and be recognized. Mr. Hay?
Yeah, sorry, this is a very conflicting recommendation for us because of exactly that, but we did look at what the amount is that we would have in the general stabilization after the fact. The free cash that was moved at the special town meeting, the $281,000, was taken for the budget for this year as well as the fire truck price increase. Those two pieces is where the free cash went. That was actually planned to go back and repay the stabilization that we paid last year. So
Right.
there's lots of back and forth with those monies, and you'll see if we had that money, we might have been able to come up with additional funds to purchase the highway department truck that is on the budget for later, but that's now going to be a borrow. So we have looked at it, we've asked about the credit rating, and so far we're maintaining the current credit rating.
It just seems like we have a remote likelihood of replenishing any of these funds. And we keep going to them, going to them, going to them.
Ma'am, I think you made that point. So I'm going to try to limit people if we're getting into repetitious comments.
All right. Thank you.
Because we've spent the last 45 minutes or more on this one article, and we've got a long way to go. So, ma'am, you were...
Thank you. Rochelle Cayley, 34 Old Battery Road. Clarification on the extension for July and August. Can you explain that to us again, why it's listed as an extension for those 2 months?
Doctor? Yeah.
So the extension for those 2 months is to allow people to come to the program and and get engaged with the program, because it wouldn't be fair that we are voting this today and we start the program on July 1st. So that is why we are allowing an extension of that current contract, so that the people can come in, participate of the program, and at least fund also the program.
Okay, comments come on the motion. If you didn't answer your question, then you can have a follow-up, but otherwise, we can't keep having serial question and answers. I'm sorry.
Okay, can we consider something besides trash bags? Because we're putting trash bags inside trash bags.
Right. Good point. Ms. Lizio.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Through you, and I guess to, in general, the Select Board and the Board of Health, in terms of accounting, I know they've put aside in the budget, in this budget, some monies for what they're calling administration. If I'm correct, in the Water Enterprise Fund, when the auditors came in at one point, and maybe even DOR came in, we had to separate out who did the billing versus who did the collecting of the funds. And that collection ended up in the treasurer's office. And there was a little bit of a lag in time, because they had to catch up with being able to process all of the payments that were coming in. I don't want us to get into another one of those situations, but I haven't heard anybody talk about how much more work is it going to be for our accounting department. I know we've got a lockbox. I know, you send it to a PO and some of it is done that way. But the reality is that it ends up hitting there. The other concern that I have, and it's connected to that, is we're not supposed to be dealing with cash payments. I mean, cash is a no-no for a municipality, yet we still hand cash to the people that work at the recycling center, and we still hand cash to somebody in the accounting department who gives us some trash bags if Carla's not there. So I want us to make sure that we don't end up in trouble down the road, but I haven't heard anybody address it. Have you talked about that administrative work at all? Thank you.
Questions come on the motion. I don't know if anybody's prepared tonight to deal with that. Mr. Melanson.
Todd Melanson, 79 Clement Road. In regards to water enterprise accounts, Townsend seems to be an oddity, and I think that's an opinion of the auditor. I know of about probably 20 or 30 water enterprise accounts, whether they be part of a town or a district, that handle their own collection and finances. Anything else could be handled with an intermunicipal agreement like the water department currently has with the town, where we have, they call cross charges. And there's an accounting you can set up to do that. But most water utilities handle their receipt of their own monies and turn those accounting into the town, if they're part of the town. Water districts are totally separate. They collect the monies and they disperse them. So again, Townsend seems to be an oddity that I have trouble wrapping my head around sometimes, but that's my answer for that.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Mr. Rideout.
Bill Rideout, 88 South Harbor Road. Move the question.
Okay. All right, motion's been made to move the question. This on? Motion's made to move the question. This will cut off debate. All those in favor of moving the question, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion is before you. Then to, let's see if I can find it. All right, you got it there? Harrison, thanks. Thanks. To see if the town will accept the provisions of General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53, F and a half, establishing a solid waste and recycling collection and disposal service as an enterprise fund effective as of fiscal year 2026. Although, no. Yes, that's right, we're voting now. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it.
Okay. The
Okay,
person
hold
who
on.
seconded the motion that I made, you need to come up and sign it, please.
Okay, while that's happening, we'll see Article 2, to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $160,000 from the general stabilization account and to raise and appropriate the sum of $626,351 or any other sum to operate the solid waste and recycling enterprise fund for fiscal year 2026, and in order to fund the cost of intermunicipal expenses, that $16,351 of said sum or any other sum be appropriated in the general fund, or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
I
Mr.
present a
Moderator.
motion to move the town vote to transfer the sum of $160,000 from the general stabilization account and to raise and appropriate the sum of $626,351 to operate the solid waste and recycling enterprise fund for fiscal year 2026, and in order to fund the cost of intermunicipal expenses, that is $16,351 of said sum be appropriated in the general fund.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there a motion? I mean, the written we need a motion in writing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Okay.
Just come up and sign.
Just for folks that are making motions other than the selectmen, just understand that you have to write your motion out and have it signed by yourself and a seconder, someone who seconds it, and then deliver it to the town clerk. Usually it's kind of automatic, the selectmen will be doing it, but when we have different types of things like this, we need that separate motion. That also applies to any amendments, heaven forfend. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Again, I'm going to ask the proponent to say, and I'm going to ask, I hope Dr. Roman Rivera, that you don't have another big presentation, because I think we've already touched on a lot of things. Okay, all right, good. Then I'm going to ask the Finance Committee if they have a recommendation on this article, and then I'm going to ask the selectmen for their comments.
Again, this was recommended at a vote by the full board. It was unanimous to support this article passing.
Okay, FinCom recommends. Select Board, comments?
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make an amendment to the motion. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $786,351 to operate the Solid Waste and Recycling Enterprise Fund for fiscal year 2026, and in order to fund the cost of intermunicipal expenses, that's $16,351 of said sum be approved in the general fund.
Okay, so basically, just raising and appropriated, not taking it from the stabilization.
From stabilization, that's correct.
Okay. All right, motion's made. Is there a second? Second. Motion's made and seconded to amend the motion. Is there anything to be said on the amendment? Again, the amendment is to basically not transfer $160,000 from the general stabilization account, but to, in fact, raise and appropriate, if my math is correct, $786,351 to raise and appropriate that money from the tax levy. Oh, all right, from user fees? Okay, so you're not raising and appropriating. Okay. All right, if we get that written motion, Ms. Callahan, can I read that? Okay, the amendment is to raise and appropriate the sum of $786,351 to operate the Solid Waste and Recycling Enterprise Fund for fiscal year 2026, and in order to fund the cost of intermunicipal expenses, that $16,351 of said sum be appropriated in the general fund. Okay, is there anything to be said on the motion to amend? Ms. Craven, see your approach.
You'll have to help me procedurally. Mr. Barrett, Kim Craven, 87 Lunenburg Road. Given that this body just voted unanimously without a no on the first motion, which included the presentation of taking it from stabilization, I would like to table Ms. Kell's motion, eliminate Ms. Kell's, go back to the first motion. What's the proper town meeting time rule for that?
Okay, I think that the practical way of doing that is for the town to vote on the amendment, whether it's up or down. I think we have to have some discussion.
Okay.
So about the merits of the amendment, and so I'm going to ask Ms. Kell if she can maybe, because she authored the motion, explain why she recommends doing that.
The reason I recommended doing that is so that the funds don't come out of stabilization, so that they are added in with the user fee. So the adjustment in the, it's this one, I don't have the presentation, but the page that says estimated revenues under user fees, instead of 225,000, the number there would become 385,000. And then at the bottom where it says surplus deficit and budgeted subsidy, there would be no 160, either as a deficit or as a subsidy.
Okay, so that 160 would come from user funds.
That is exactly
Fees.
correct, yes.
Okay.
And it allows, it,
What's the
It
point of
was.
order?
It just allows the program to go forward, but it does not take the funds from our emergency bucket, so to speak, from stabilization.
Okay, okay, I think that's clear. I'm going to ask the gentleman on the other side, what's your name again?
Chris Thurrott, 102 Pierce Road.
All right, Chris.
Ms. Kell, or Mr. Moderator, could we ask Ms. Kell what the estimated effect on the annual user fee would be?
Okay, question comes on the motion
Can I do a point of
to
order
amend.
first?
Hold on. Did anybody have a response to that?
I do. I believe it's closer to the $200 user fee, as the 125 user fee would be a $200 user fee. 218 to be exact.
Point of order.
Okay.
Maureen Davis, Cedar Circle. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the first thing we need is to vote, A or nay, whether or not we accept this new amendment to even have discussion. Then if we all say aye and we do it, then we have discussion, then we vote on whether or not we want to pass it.
No, the motion's been made to amend. Then we have to have discussion about the motion to amend.
Are we going to have two votes, though?
Then we vote on the motion.
When we vote, are we voting for?
If you, let me explain it.
I just want to be.
We have discussion until we decide we've heard enough about the motion to amend. And then if we run out of questions or there's a motion to move the question, we vote on the motion to amend. If that passes, the motion is amended, and we then vote on the main motion. If the motion to amend fails, then we go back to the main motion. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Right. Maybe three if we do move the question. Okay? Dr. Roman Rivera.
So if we vote on the amendment that Selectwoman Kell is presenting, the situation is that the program is going to be in deficit, and in 2 months, probably could be, I'm not sure, I'm not an accountant, but I'm very sure that in 2 months, we need to have the appropriate funds to create and to have the enterprise fund moving. Am I correct, Ms. Accountant?
I'm not, I don't believe Ms. Dunnett knows. Oh, all right.
Oh.
Katie?
If I can have the accountant to come and clarify this point that about the need of having funds on the enterprise account.
Okay, so insufficient data to give you an answer, Dr. Roman Rivera. Okay, sir.
Tyler Champagne, 18-seater.
I'm still waiting.
Just real quick, if we do what you're proposing and put that 160 into the user fees, and then we divide by 1,800 residents, our sticker is $2.14 a piece. Then we go back to that slide where we had 1 bag per house per week, and we look at that on an annual, which was another $2.54, I believe, or no, what was the? Had to go back to that slide. But if you add those two up, we're at $500 a year, which is like $30 cheaper than full private. So it's either we're going to increase the cost of the bag, or like what I talked about, that bulk pricing where you take the 700,000 that and then divide it by 1,800 residents, we get it down to $43. But
So we're looking at a one-year program here.
if you do what you're talking about, there's no point.
All right, comments come on the motion. Ms. Craven.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Kim Craven, 87 Lunenburg Road. For question 1, Article 1, this body voted unanimously for the presentation that the Board of Health has been working on, which plainly stated the numbers, that it would be coming from stabilization. It was pretty clear, and should be clear, to the selectmen in its entirety, and Ms. Kell individually as a citizen, that this body was in favor, in fact, of the 160 coming from stabilization. It was not hidden. It was very plainly stated by the Board of Health. It was very plainly stated by FinCom that they were in favor of this as well. Moreover, as Chris Nacella pointed out, in 2001, we had an override for trash. Trash has accounted for several $1 million in our budget and now accounts for well over what the fee would be for trash. And finally, in the program that the Board of Health has worked out with Shaw's, the first 2 months of trash for the municipality is included in that $58,000. It's a good program, unanimously voted in Article 1 by the community. I would hope that the track record of the community speaking, as it did earlier this year, would have some bearing and some weight and allow this to move forward. This is time for us, for our input, not a back and forth.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Ms. Kelly.
Kelly, 5 Tourist Lane. If this passes, you are dooming this enterprise fund and the program. I got up here and said that this program is basically a wash for a family like mine, that we're not saving any money really, but now it's going to cost families like mine more money, which means we're going to leave the program, and even smaller families, it's going to hit that break-even point where people are going to say it is not worth the time or effort of getting the purple bags, and you're going to doom the program, which will then impact not only the seniors in this community that it will benefit for, but you're also impacting organizations like TEO, where we decided that we would support the low income. So now you're encumbering more funds on the behalf of TEO to support the people in our town. And as the treasurer of TEO, I kind of object to that because we allocated a certain amount of money to support the low-income people in this town, and now we might have to go back to our board and ask for an increase on that, or go to our low-income people and say, sorry, you're now also going to have to chip in $75. They have a plan. They have a plan that is going forward. They know that they need a little bit of help, but it's to give people time. Many people are going to be getting this announcement that in the next month they have to come up with $125, which might impact certain people in our community in a negative way. But it's set at a point where hopefully most people can absorb that without too much impact, or just a little plug, if it is going to impact you majorly, please reach out to Kim or Kelly at TEO, and we'll be happy to help you. But that aside, $125 versus asking someone to come up with $200 or $225 in about a month could seriously impact some members of our community. They were very clear that it was $160,000. We voted on that article that said it was $160,000. You're going to make people like my family leave the program, which is going to doom the program, and you're going to hurt the seniors in this community.
Comments come on the motion. Sure, again.
Chris Thurot, 102 Pierce Road. Move the question.
Okay, motion's made to move the question. This will cut off debate. All those in favor, and this is cutting off the debate on the amendment. All those in favor of moving the question, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The main motion is before you. Is there anything further to be said? I'm sorry, the amendment is before you. Anything further? No. All right, so we're just going to vote now on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Those opposed say no. No. The noes have it. Back to the main motion. Is there anything further to be said? It appears we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the main motion on Article 2, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Article 3, see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $15,000 for upkeep and maintenance of the towns and cemeteries, or take any other related expenses, and said appropriation to be paid from the sale of lots fund, or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion? I think. No, I'm sort of separating myself from cemetery and parks unless I step down and Jean can take over. But.
I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $15,000 for the upkeep, maintenance of the towns and cemeteries, or any other related expense, said appropriation to be paid from the sales of lots fund.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. Hopefully we won't have a lot of debate about this one. All those, anything to be said? All right, not seeing any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, unanimous. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to amend the charter. Article 3, elected officials, by amending Section 3-1 as shown in the warrant and inserting new Section 3-17, constables, as shown in the warrant, or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion? Not sure who's offering this. All right.
I'll do it.
Spofford?
Yep. Kathleen Spofford, 312 Main Street. I move, do I need to read the entire?
I think that if with the floor's permission, you can make the motion to amend C 3-1 as shown in the warrant, if it is as it appears.
Okay. I move the town vote to amend the charter, Article 3, elected officials, by amending Section 3-1 as shown in the warrant, and inserting a new Section 3-17, constables, as shown in the warrant.
And everyone has a copy of the warrant that shows how this section would look if this motion passes. Yeah, is there a second? Okay, motion's made and seconded. Yeah, you have a written motion, former Madam Clerk? Oh. I got it.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to have town council
Yep.
explain.
Mr. Costa?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. For the record, Adam Costa, Town Council. So Article 4 on the special town meeting warrant was submitted as a citizen's petition, and as is always the case with citizens petitions, they get sent along to my office to review in advance of town meeting so that I can opine on their form and their substance and their legality if they were to be voted at the town meeting. I did that with respect to Article 4, and I just want to note for town meeting's benefit that I do have certain concerns. The concerns were not significant enough for me to advise the select board or the moderator that this should not appear on the warrant, which is why it's on the warrant. And I'm not telling you, the town meeting voters, that you can't vote on it. But I am telling you that in my legal opinion, this will not have the force and effect that I think it's probably intended to. And the reason for that is, as a matter of law, charters take one of a couple of different forms in Massachusetts. There are home rule charters that are adopted through a statutory process, and there are special act charters. Special act charters are what they sound like. They're adopted through special acts of the Massachusetts legislature. They're voted by the House, they're voted by the Senate. They ultimately land on the governor's desk. The governor signs them, at which point they're sent back to the municipality and they have become law. That is the type of charter that Townsend has. Many of you may know that. I know that because I was involved in assisting the charter committee that was convened, I want to say back in 2019 or 2020, over a lengthy period of time, in reviewing and proposing revisions to the charter that were then submitted to the legislature, only to run into backups in part due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and we waited the better part of 2.5 years to finally get action by the legislature, and in 2020, late 23 or early 24, the legislature finally approved your special act charter. So the mechanism that needs to be utilized to further amend that charter is further special legislation. And so that would come to town meeting. It would just come to town meeting in a different form than what's before you in Article 4. It would come to you as a request of the town meeting voters to submit a petition, referred to as a home rule petition, to the state legislature to further amend your charter the same way that we did back in 2019. And that's not how this is currently structured. This just attempts, by way of a town meeting vote, to make an amendment to the charter the same way, for example, that you would make an amendment to a bylaw. If this were a bylaw, that would be legitimate. There'd be no issue. Town meeting can always amend bylaws through majority or supermajority vote. But this isn't the bylaw. This is the governing document of the town charter. And because it's a special act charter, it has to be amended through that legislative process. And so you can vote as you choose, but I do have some concern that when this gets submitted ultimately to the Attorney General's office, it's going to be rejected as not lawful because it didn't follow the proper process and it's not in the proper form.
Thank you, Mr. Costa. I don't know if... Okay, Ms. Spofford, do you want to reply? I mean, given that concern of town council? Or? Okay, all right. Is there anything further to be said? Mr. DeVos?
Hi, Vin DeVulis, 16 Birch. Why? Why?
Okay, question comes, I guess, for Ms. Spofford. Why is this being proposed?
Thank you, Ms. Moderator. Through you to Mr. DeVulis. The reason this is being brought forward is because constables have been removed from the town of Townsend due to a policy put forward by the Board of Selectmen. It's going to cost the townspeople, if you need to use a constable, more money, more time, because you'll have to go through the sheriff's office. Not only that, for elections, we'll need a police officer versus a constable, which is substantially more money, about $800 an election. So that's why this was brought forward, because as of July 1st, we will no longer have constables in the town of Townsend, and it will hurt not just the town, but the townspeople.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Anything further to be said? Chief?
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, if I could be recognized to comment on on this in this article. There's a significant law change back in 2020, often referred to as police reform, that significantly changed the law as it pertains to people that are allowed to make arrests. As this article is written, there is the power of arrest, which would trigger a lot of regulation through post, which would require certification, which means they would have to attend the police academy. There would be a whole host of other certifications that would kick in, not to mention testing and assessment that would kick in that is actually overseen by post. So there would be some significant policy changes within the town to kind of moderate that, figure out how that application and appointment process works. And I'm not really sure that we've had those level of discussions to figure out what that would look like. Not to mention the scope of duties of a constable. If there are arrests in town, it specifically does make mention of the power of arrest, which does trigger that law, and Attorney Costa could certainly comment on that.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Anything, Mr. Costa?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'll just respond to that invitation from the chief. The chief and I have discussed his concerns with respect to the proposed charter amendment. I'm not going to speak for myself or necessarily for the town of Townsend, but I will echo some of the remarks that the chief just made, at least as they relate to concerns that have been raised at a state level through associations such as the Massachusetts Municipal Association with respect to constables and some of the authority that constables have under centuries, literally centuries old laws, the common law as we refer to it, no basis in statute necessarily, but the authority that constables have had for generations. There was an effort back in, I want to say 2017, 2018, 2019, through one bill in particular that was advanced. It began in the House and never progressed to the Senate. It was referred to committee for further study and never came back for action to the full House or to the Senate. But in the context of that bill, the Massachusetts Municipal Association convened its officers and issued an advisory. And it was sort of a lobbying piece, but it expressed the concerns that the association had with respect to the authority that constables continue to have in municipalities, and why at that time it supported the bill, which would have removed some of that authority. Of course, as I said, the bill didn't progress. And I'm just going to read a few sentences from this MMA advisory that issued, because I think it summarizes the situation. It says, "Constables derive their broad powers to enforce civil and criminal statutes from colonial-era laws. While constables typically work on civil matters such as serving summonses and executing court orders, civil arrest warrants, evictions, asset recovery, and seizures, there are also increasing examples of constables acting to enforce criminal law. Unbeknownst to many, constables can arrest any person committing a misdemeanor or a felony in their presence. Constables work in the communities in which they are elected or appointed, but they do not report to the police chief. Police departments have hundreds of written policies and procedures and numerous trainings and best practices, but constables are not subject to any of these. This lack of modern training sets constables apart from police and may result in unbecoming or illegal behavior, such as false arrests, which can result in improper restraint or injuries to the constable or to the arrestee, creating significant liability for cities and towns. Moreover, because constables are not issued firearms by the police department, they often carry their own licensed firearms while on duty, presenting further issues relative to proper training, citizen interactions, and liability for cities and towns. Municipal police also continue to focus on community policing, which provides officers with important practices to continue positively with the public. Because of the broad powers constables have under current law, constables could potentially undermine these efforts. So again, those aren't my words, but those are the concerns that the MMA had raised back in 2017, 2018, 2019 in supporting the bill that was then before the House to remove some of this authority from constables. That bill didn't progress, and as a result, constables continue as a matter of common law to have that authority, and I think that ties into some of the concerns. And in recent years, the additional programmatic requirements, reporting requirements that exist that were referenced by the chief. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you.
All right. So based on legal counsel, who we pay, I move that we table or withdraw the article.
Keep turning it on. You want to basically take a motion to pass over? Okay. I believe we can vote on that without debate. It's like a motion to take no action, which we typically would do when the proposing party is not, want to go forward, doesn't want to go forward with their own motion. I'm going to check with council if we can, or if we have to get the proponent to file this motion.
Mr. Moderator, through you, so any voter has the right to make a motion to indefinitely postpone, also commonly referred to as a motion to table or pass over. The motion is debatable if there are those who wish to debate it in the moderator's discretion, but it need not be the original proponent of the article. It can be any voter on any article, citizen's petition or otherwise.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Costa. Okay, so we will need, if you're making that motion, Mr. Stevenson, will need it in writing, and we need a second. And we can debate it. Is there anything to be said on the motion to basically pass over this article, given the things that have already been said? Any comments? It looks like we're made up our minds one way or the other to vote. I'm sorry, Mr. Churchville?
Mary Jane Churchville, 292 Main Street, Townsend. I have two questions. Number one, why wasn't this information given to FinCom prior to tonight so that we could have all the facts before we made our recommendation? That's number one. And number two, have these constables that we have in Townsend violated all those arrest rules and all that business?
Question comes on the motion to essentially take no action or pass over the article. And generally, if there's a problem, I think, Mary Jane, your question was, have there been a problem with constables we already have? I don't know if anybody really has an answer to that. I think this is something of a kind of a default on the part of the legislature to maybe modify or modernize the laws about constables. I talked too long. So if anybody can answer Ms. Churchville's question, please do so, but
No, I can't answer that.
Kathy.
I have no idea.
reason this keeps going off on me. Okay.
Mr.
All right.
Moderator, if I could be recognized?
Yep, sure, Mr. Costa.
Thank you. Just to be clear, so I don't have an answer to your question, and that's why I was so cautious in reciting what I did from the MMA documentation. I don't have any direct information about Townsend specifically or constables in Townsend specifically, and whether any of the concerns that the MMA had and that it expressed in that writing are concerns that have come to pass in Townsend. I simply don't know.
Okay, and what about the other question I had?
All right, I'm going to recognize Mrs. Spofford.
Kathleen Spofford, 312 Main Street. Would it be possible to amend my motion by striking out making arrests for breaches of the peace?
I'm sorry, do you want to amend it how?
By striking out in Section 4, making arrests for breaches of the peace.
I think it probably goes to the fact that there's a general law that still affords certain powers to the constables, so I don't know if the town could independently of that change that rule. Mr. Costa, again,
So through you, Mr. Moderator, so a couple of points. Just a reminder, we have a motion on the floor to pass over, and so that would need to be acted upon before any motion to amend could be acted upon. With respect to the comment made by the previous speaker, certainly there could be a proposed amendment, and in my mind, that would be within the scope of the article. Whether that would achieve the purpose of therefore refusing constables that authority to make arrests, the fact that it's not stated specifically within this proposed charter amendment, that's tough to say for the reason you alluded to, that it's not even in the general laws, it's a matter of common law. So as was stated by the MMA, it's colonial era laws that gave the authority to constables to do such things as make arrests. So the fact that you're not saying explicitly in the charter that they have that authority, does that equate to depriving them of that authority? I don't know the answer to that. Possibly not.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Costa. Mr. Rideout.
Bill Rideout, 88 South Harbor, move the question.
Okay, motion's been made to move the question on the motion to pass over this article. That'll cut off debate, and then we'll vote on that article. So all those in favor of moving the question, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. So the motion is to pass over Article 4. This will basically we're taking no action on it, so it can be brought back at another time in another form, but not at this meeting, unless there's a motion to reconsider. So all those in favor of the motion to pass over, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. All right, now I think what we're going to need to do is entertain a motion to recess the special town meeting and to take up... I think our plan here is that we return to Article 5 about this override after we've determined where we are with the budget. So, Ms. Priest?
I move that we recess this special town meeting for the purpose of reconvening the annual town meeting and then return to this special town meeting when Articles 11, 18, and 19 of annual town meeting have been disposed of.
All right. Motion's made and seconded. All right. This is a procedural article. It's not an article, although we probably should have it in writing, Dawn. Yeah. So what this will do is we're going to recess the special town meeting and go back to the town meeting, annual town meeting, and take up the budget and the other articles in the annual town meeting. Oh, I didn't think there were any more than that. Is there more? Okay. All right, so just 11. Okay, the motion is to recess the special town meeting for the purpose of reconvening the annual town meeting, then return to the special town meeting when Articles 11, 18, and 19 of the annual town meeting have been disposed of. So then we would return to the annual town meeting to take care of the other articles.
Mr. Moderator? Is
Ms.
that for
Schifrin.
discussion?
Yes, I think we can have discussion on it.
Okay. We really would like to have all of the town meeting completed and then come back. Resume for the override.
Okay, is there I guess for the select board, sort of a plan here as far as why take up all of them? Just get through the town meeting and then
Just get
return to
through
the
the town
annual?
meeting.
I mean, the special?
Well, I thought our discussion was that we would do the override after we've done the budget. I'd like to
I
make
think
a
the motion was to deal with the article.
With only 3 articles of the annual?
The 3 articles were,
Do you want to speak to your
Harrison,
motion?
again?
Yes, I can speak to why I selected those articles. I think it's important that we vote on the budget before voting on the override, especially if we want to make sure the amount is what it needs to be, if there needs to be one. And so the omnibus, obviously, and the HERO Act also affects the budget on the recap side. So those are the articles that I think need to be voted on before an override is set.
And we agree, but we'd like to do the full agenda.
I would
Which
worry
should
that
be-
others want to leave, and then we won't have people here to vote on your Article 5 for the special town meeting.
Or vice versa.
Right.
So we
So-
still have business to do.
So you want to vote on the override question absolute last?
No, yes.
It might be simpler to do that, just so that we don't confuse people about going back and forth. If we can.
Okay, we'll let it go.
Right.
Yeah, I would be worried about losing quorum for the override vote.
All right,
I think-
well, the motion is before, let's decide. The motion, Mr. Mayor, if you could, again, let's see what people want to do. We would just recess this special town meeting, return to the annual town meeting, and handle Articles 11, 18, and 19, which includes the budget. And then we would return to the special town meeting when those 3 articles have been disposed of. All right, anything further? Your choice. You could vote this down, and we can take up all the annual town meeting articles, and then go to the Article 5 for the override, or we just take up the 3 now. So, all those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Those opposed, say no. Okay, I'm going to say the noes have it. Is there another motion?
I don't think that they knew what they just voted on. Did they? Okay. Make my motion to go back to the annual for all the articles.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Costa?
could I suggest a motion?
Sure.
I might suggest a motion that we adjourn temporarily the remaining article on the special town meeting warrant for the purpose of taking up the remaining articles on the annual town meeting warrant, at which point we will then return to the special town meeting for the remaining Article 5.
Okay.
And that's what I moved.
Is that so moved?
So move. Second.
Okay, all right, so the new motion is basically to recess or adjourn the special town meeting, return to the annual town meeting, and take up the budget and all the articles on the warrant for the annual town meeting. And then, my understanding is we would adjourn the annual town meeting to return to the special town meeting to take up the Article 5 for the override under the special town meeting. I know it's confusing, but I think we want to get to the business at hand, which is the annual town meeting, and then get to that other article before we lose the quorum and have to come back some other day. So, is there any discussion on the motion to do that? Not seeing any. I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion to recess the special town meeting to take up the balance of the annual town meeting, say aye. Those opposed, say no.
No.
The ayes have it. All right, so we are reconvening the annual town meeting, and the first article is the article on the budget. I think there's some issues that I need to address with the budget as to how it is going to be reviewed. In past We have reviewed the budget in its functional segments. However, my understanding in doing that way, if we vote each functional segment, the funds within that functional segment are determined to be set within that functional segment. That means the department, and correct me if I'm wrong, but department accounts can be shifted from one department to another within that functional segment. The other way, which quite frankly is the way we used to do it, would be voting on a department budget on each department, and in that case, the department budget could not be amended only within its own department. So I wanted to make sure the meeting is clear about that, and I think we have to let the meeting decide which form you want to do. The functional segment one is quicker, but it doesn't require us to go through it department by department, but it does have consequences. So, Mr. Melanson, do you have comment?
Yes, I have a motion. I'd like to make a motion to move Article 13, Water Enterprise Fund Revenue Budget, and Article 14, items 4 and 5, Water Enterprise Fund warrant articles forward for consideration and vote. I have a large concern that if I don't get a budget by the end of the year, we are risking the SRF funding for the PFAS treatment plant, which we have at 0% interest right now. So I would like to move the water enterprise stuff, and I don't understand why the warrant articles for the water enterprise account is included in all the capital expenditures. It's not the town's fiscal money, it's the water enterprise money. In my past history, those have always been separate from the town capital planning budget. So
your motion is to take up the water department articles before the general budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Is there a second? Okay. Motion made and seconded to take up the water department articles prior to the general budget. Is there anything to be said? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. So we're at Article 13, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $2,169,359.62 or any other sum for the water enterprise revenues to operate the water department for fiscal year 2026, and in order to fund the cost of intermunicipal expenses, that $444,651.62 of this sum or any other sum be appropriated in the general fund or take any other action in relation thereto. Mr. Melanson, there's a motion? Do you have the motion? Okay, well, 13 and 14.
So I
But
make a
we're taking
motion
up
to
13
move.
first.
I make a motion. Do you want to do them separate then? Two different motions?
Two
or-
separate motions
Okay.
on your articles. You got,
Okay.
we're going ahead with Articles 13 and 14. First 13, then 14, not all together.
Okay.
Okay.
Make a motion to move Article 13, the Water Enterprise Fund Revenue Budget, forward for consideration and vote. And then my second motion. Oh, all right.
We
Well, I
already
thought he
did
was
that.
asking.
We want to entertain Article 13 now. We need a motion on Article 13 to appropriate the sum of $2 million, the actual motion. Do you guys have it printed?
I got it. I got it here, but I was confused on my motion, sorry. To see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $2,169,359.62 or any other sum from the Water Enterprise Fund revenues to operate the water department for the fiscal year 2026.
Ms.
And
Melanson, point of order. We have to vote, when we vote, the article, we don't know exactly what the number is going to be, so we can say, or any other sum. But when the motion is made, it has to be a sum certain.
All right, thank you very much. All right, I move to vote the appropriate sum of $2,169,359.62 from the Water Enterprise Fund revenues to operate the water department for fiscal year 2026. And in order to fund the cost of intermunicipal expenses, that $444,651.60 of this sum will be appropriated to the general fund.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any comments on the motion? Oh, appears no questions, comments. Fair, Miss? Okay. Mr. Funioli, do you have a question?
Not a question. I want to make a motion to move one of the articles from its current position to be considered almost immediately.
Okay, well, we got to dispose of this article first.
I know, that's why I'm waiting.
Okay. All right, on this article, yeah, Ms. Lord?
Hi, I'm hoping this is the appropriate space to talk about this. In this operating budget, is there the inclusion of putting the water tank on Lunenburg Road and the, I guess, water through Lunenburg Road to eventually will be used for the development for Blood Road? My water at my end of town, Wallace Hill Road, and the water, why are we adding more? We're going to do more work here, but my water is undrinkable. We have to buy bottled water because when we drink our water, unless it's chlorinated on a regular basis, it makes us sick. We end up with diarrhea. And that also on Maple Street, I believe it's all the same water there. So what are we doing about our water? And we're going to do more, add more water lines, but what are we doing to address? We have this big budget. What are we doing to address the quality of water at my end of town? We have to buy bottled water.
All right, comments come on the motion. Mr. Melanson?
If you're on a private well? No?
Town water.
Town water. The system is chlorinated currently now. Main Street?
You're talking about Maple Street? As well, Maple Street as well. That's the problem that we're going to tie up high.
So where they're tied into is off of the old 6 on Highland. We have been working section by section to get it done. We just approved getting the rest of it set up to do. We were mandated to do the PFAS treatment plant before anything else. I apologize for the situation.
It's been happening for years.
I've been on the board. We only, to be honest with you, our board only became aware of it just about the time PFAS hit us, okay? We did take initially some of it. We pretty much emptied all of our reserves to take care of the Main Street station and start the process of fixing where you are. The last set of, what I would suggest you do is come to our board meeting when we have one, and we can go over. Dave, what date did we? Can I address this one? If they allow you.
All right, I think the town can recognize the water superintendent, Mr. Vigan.
So for Maple Street, we found out there's a problem.
Mr. Vigan, please direct your comments to the mic so we can hear you.
All right, so for Maple Street, Oak Street, Bow Street, we found out that there's a problem, that it's tied off the 6 on Highland, so it stops the flow, and the water stagnates in that neighborhood. This summer, we're going to be pulling those water mains off and tying into the 16-inch main on Highland and replacing the 2 hydrants. So that should fix all the problems in that neighborhood.
What about Wallace Hill? Can they include Wallace Hill?
Well, that's something else. But right now, that's the main problem we have, so that's what we're addressing. And that should happen after we pass the budget, and I know where the funds are in there for that project.
Okay, comments come on the motion for the water department budget. Anything further to be said? Mr. Shepherd, Chief.
Mr. Moderator, I'm not sure if this is appropriate, but for just a very brief moment, I'd like to compliment the water department and the superintendent. And I know there's challenges with the PFAS that's gone in, but had the superintendent not be vigilant in his observation of what was going on with PFAS, Townsend would not have the $23 million grant that they were able to receive that limited cost to the town. So in addition to being able to get a PFAS treatment plant that they're struggling or working through, we were able to get loops, we were able to get fire hydrants, we were able to get a number of things at effectively not only no cost to the town, but he should be able to receive additional funds back from lawsuits that will prop up and perk the water department. So I think it's appropriate to give kudos, because I also am well aware that the water department and the superintendent specifically have been under attack because of a variety of personal agendas. And had he not done that, the infrastructure of the water department would be far weaker than it is today, and would be far further behind, expecting contributions from the town to be able to support this. So from my perspective, as a fire chief, as a contractor, there's a variety of things. I think the $23 million grab that the water superintendent of the water department was able to do is a beneficial improvement to the infrastructure of Townsend, and from my opinion, thank you for that.
Thank you, Chief Shepherd, and thank you, Mr. Vigant and Mr. Melanson. Anything else to be said on the Water Department, Article 13?
Move the question.
All right, I think we're ready to vote, right? We won't need to move the question if we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 13, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. It's adopted. Article 14. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, borrow or transfer from available funds and the Water Enterprise Fund the sum of $245,620 for the capital fiscal year 26 capital plan as voted by the Capital Plan Committee. Is there a motion? Ms. Kell.
I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate and transfer from available funds in the Treasury and from Water Enterprise retained earnings the sum of $245,620 for the purpose of funding a portion of the fiscal year 26 capital plan as voted by the Capital Planning Committee as follows. For highway, cat loader 930, fourth year payment of the 5-year lease, $31,100 coming from capital stabilization. Number 2, for facilities, the Memorial Hall fire suppression system for $40,000 from capital stabilization. Number 3, for the police, the lease payment on 4 cruisers of $102,520 coming from the general fund. For water, master plan update, costing $60,000 from the Water Enterprise retained earnings. And item 5, Department of Water, cybersecurity assessment for $12,000 from the Water Enterprise retained earnings, for a total of $245,620.
Second.
Okay, motion's made on Article 14. Anything to be said? All right, it seems we're ready to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it, unanimous. Ms. Schifrin.
I have an idea of how this is going, so I would like to make a motion that we continue with Articles 15 through 19 and complete that and then go to the budget. I think that these will all be a lot quicker. Does that work for you, Dave?
As long as we can get to my article.
Okay.
Could
Is there a
I
second?
make a friendly amendment to that, Ms. Schifrin, because, so we don't orphan Article 12, we also do that one too?
Oh,
And then we'll return to the budget.
yes, we can include Article 12.
Okay, so motion is to, rather than go back to the beginning of our recessed town meeting and deal with the budget, we're going to deal with all these other articles in the warrant for the annual town meeting, which will mean, we'll start with Article 12 we're taking a cue from Mr. Melanson here.
Mr.
Go to
Moderator.
Article 15,
Excuse me, point of
16,
order.
17.
I question Article 12, because Article 12 is the salary that's being voted in the budget on Article 11.
That,
It's fixing
those
the-
issues could come up.
fixing
All
the
right, so
salary.
we'll have to take that up. Just let's not forget it, okay? I hear what you're saying, Mr. Hayes, that article is somewhat dependent on what we do in the budget. So why don't we start off with, then, the motion is to finish off with the other articles after Article 14, and then we'll return to the budget.
15 to 19.
Starting now with 15.
Yes.
All right, all those in favor of taking these articles up? Yeah, we got a second on that?
Is there a
I thought
second?
I did hear one, yeah.
There's a second?
All right, anybody confused? Well, it'll all become clear in a minute. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. All right, the ayes have it. So Article 15, to see if the town will vote to raise, appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum of $295,000 for the purpose of funding a portion of the capital fiscal year 26 capital plan as voted by the Capital Planning Committee. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, and transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum of $295,000 for the purpose of funding a portion of the FY26 capital plan as voted by the Capital Planning Committee as follows. One highway, six-wheel dump truck with plow and sander, $295,000. Borrow with the first payment coming out of capital stabilization fund. Total is $295,000.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. I think I heard a second, right?
Was there a second?
Second.
Yeah. On Article 15, anything to be said? Yep, this requires a two-thirds vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, it's unanimous. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum of $10,000 or any other sum for the purpose of funding the assessor's fiscal year 26 periodic inspections and property data verification program as mandated by the Department of Revenue. Is there a motion? Yep, Ms. Goodrich.
To transfer from the overlay surplus account for the sum of $10,000 for the purpose of funding the assessor's FY26 periodic inspections and property data verification program as mandated by the Massachusetts Department of Revenue, Bureau of Local Assessments.
Motion's made and seconded. Anything to be said? Looks like we're ready to vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. Ayes have it, unanimous. Article 17, see if the town will vote to appropriate from the PEG Access Receipts Reserve Account the sum of $166,490.67, funds equal to 5% of the Comcast gross annual revenues in Townsend for the first, second, and third quarters of fiscal year 25, subject to receipt and availability, and authorize the Select Board and the Town Administrator to expend and distribute said funds to Townsend Community Access Media. I'm going to omit the rest of the article because I'm sure it's going to follow in the motion. Is there a motion?
Moderator.
Ms. Kell.
I move that the town vote to appropriate from the PEG Access Receipts Reserved Account the sum of $166,490.67, subject to receipt and availability, and authorize the Select Board and Town Administrator to expend and distribute said funds to Townsend Community Access Media Incorporated on a quarterly basis for the purpose of annual funding of the production and broadcast of PEG Access Television.
Motion's made and seconded. I notice there's a little variance from the article that the terms contained in a certain grant agreement, not part of the motion.
I'm sorry, say that again?
In the article? I didn't hear that.
That wasn't part of the motion.
Wasn't part of the motion, because the article says access I skipped over it, so that's why I'm wondering why it's not in the motion. It's, the final section is for the public educational government access television on terms contained in a certain grant agreement between the town of Townsend and Townsend Community Access Media, Inc., effective September 15, 2020.
Mr. Moderator, through you.
Mr. Costa.
So I as one who reviewed the motions, I don't think that there was any intent here to deviate from the text of the warrant article. That agreement is in effect. We're bound by the terms of that agreement. Any exchange of monies must be done in accordance with that agreement. It was simply omitted from the motion itself to simplify the motion.
So that language is surplusage, so we don't need it for the article.
We don't need it, but that's not to say that the grant agreement doesn't govern. It does continue to govern. It governs this year. It governed last year. It'll govern next year.
Okay, all right. So you have the motion for PEG access funds. Is there anything to be said? There doesn't appear to be any question. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. It's unanimous. Article 18. No problem, David. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to accept General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 22I, I believe that is, which authorizes an annual increase in the amount of the exemption granted under General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 22, Clause 22A, Clause 22B, Clause 22C, Clause 22E, and Clause 22F by the percentage increase in the U.S. Department of Labor Bureau Labor Statistics. I'm going to omit the rest. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to accept General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 221, looks like one to me, which authorizes an annual increase in the amount of the exemption granted under General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clauses 22, 22A, 22B, 22C, 22E, and 22F by the percentage increase in the CPA for the previous year as determined by the Commissioner of Revenue, to be effective for applicable exemptions granted for any fiscal year beginning on or after July 1st, 2025.
Second.
Point of order. In the warrant, it is 22J.
The warrant I have, it says 22I. Yeah, next one is J. Yeah, Article 18. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any explanation on this from the board, or?
Mr. Moderator?
Mr. Murray?
So this is related to the HERO Act for veterans. Currently, the veterans get a exemption through their real estate tax bill, and this would essentially increase that by a certain percentage, and it would be according to the CPI index, determined by the Commissioner of Revenue. Currently, the COLA, or if you want to call it that, is around 5%. So right now, the exemption for individual is $400. Is it $400, Lori? For
700 for the veterans.
Okay, so it's roughly around $700 per year for veterans. So that amount is stagnant. It does not change year over year. But if this article is approved, then that exemption would increase every year, by the CPI index. And like as mentioned before, roughly it's about 5% right now. So if this is voted on, that exemption would increase year over year.
Okay, comments come on the article, on the motion. Ms. King, you have a question?
No, I want to explain 18, and then when we get to 19, I'm going to do the same thing. I've been following this very closely. This article is simply adding a cost of living increase to the property tax exemptions that are currently provided to disabled veterans. We have 119 disabled veterans in the town right now who are receiving a property tax exemption based on their disability. The amount of the disability exemption is based on their disability, their VA disability percentage. Most of our veterans in Townsend are in the $400 exemption range, and it goes up to about $1,500 for those that are affected by 18 and 19. There are other programs that are not affected by this that are completely, or aren't affected by either 18 and 19. But this one is simply giving a small cost of living increase every year that has never been part of this. This is not, the property tax exemptions are not a new thing. They've been there for decades, that we've been providing property tax exemptions for disabled veterans for longer than I've been alive. And it's never had a cost of living adjustment. We've had to base it on different, either the votes of the legislature, which they did with the HEROES Act, they allowed the towns to pay for it ourselves. But the last time there was an increase for these property tax exemptions was around 2006, 2007. So it's been almost 20 years since there's been an increase. So they put this allowability under the HEROES Act to allow the towns to vote for adding a cost of living increase so that we maybe never have to do this again, where we have to, so that the veterans' property tax exemptions can just go up with the CPI. And the CPI is something for those that are involved with either working for the federal government, or if you are on Social Security, we get a CPI that determines, and veterans and military and everybody else that's involved with the federal government, we get a CPI, that's what determines our increases on those funds in the fall. But this one, the Department of Revenue is going to determine the previous year's CPI, I believe. That it will be from, the Department of Revenue is a state, so, and our fiscal year ends June 30th, so they'll probably, I'm assuming, and it's an assumption that they'll be determining whatever the CPI would be for the previous year that ends June 30th, not in the fall like we usually do it with the federal program. So, but it's not, it's a small increase to what we actually have right now.
I think that helps explain the whole thing to the town. All right. Not seeing any other questions. I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, unanimous. Article 19, to see if the town will vote to accept General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 22J, which authorizes annual increase in the amount of exemption granted under General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 22, 22A, 22B, 22C, 22E, and 22F by 100% of the personal exemption amount, subject to the conditions in Clause 22J, to be effective for applicable exemptions granted for any fiscal year beginning on or after July 1st, 2025. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to accept General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 22I, which authorizes an annual increase in the amount of the exemption granted under General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clauses 22, 22A, 22B, 22C, 22E, and 22F by 100% of the personal exemption amount, subject to the conditions in Clause 22I, to be effective for applicable exemptions granted for any fiscal year beginning on or after July 1st, 2025.
Okay. Motion made and seconded.
Point of order, Mr. Moderator. I believe the references in this Article 19, both references to Clauses 22I should be references to 22J.
I guess I didn't.
I changed 22I to 22J.
Okay. Yeah, that's the one we had in the article. Okay. 22J. All right. Is there anything to be said? And Ms. King, I know you want to say something, but I'm going to caution you to try to keep it short because we've got a lot of meeting to go through. If you've said what you're going to repeat what you said before, is it just say ditto?
I'm not going to repeat myself, but except for a couple things. As I said, there's 119 disabled veterans that are benefiting from this.
You already said that.
I know, but to
Okay.
reiterate, okay, this one costs more money. I know that I've talked to a lot of people in town about this. I've been running around trying to get as many people to support this as possible because it really matters to our disabled veterans. Right now, the affected veterans in those clauses are different levels of disability. and for different types of disability, ranging from A is people qualified under A are getting a $400 exemption, B is a $1,250 exemption, C is a $1,500 exemption, and E is a $1,000 exemption. And these are based on severity of their disabilities. Yes. And there's only 119 people that are affected by this, but they are severely, in some cases, very severely disabled veterans who are trying to stay in their homes. And as I said before, this has not been increased in 20 years. And if you think about your property values and how much they've gone up and how much the valuations have gone up and our taxes, the amount that was benefiting veterans in 2006 is still the same. The exemption is still the same as it was when our houses were worth half of what they are today. And so the exemption has really been cut in half. I did my own calculations, and in my house,
Ms. King, I know, we all know our taxes have gone up.
in 2006, the exemption, the $400 exemption was 18% of the property taxes on my house. Today, the 400 is 9%. So it's gone down in half. By passing this will increase the exemption, it doubles it, and bring it up to exactly the same level that it was 20 years ago. So we're not giving any gifts here to any disabled veterans. We are only bringing everybody up to where we should have been in the first place, and we hope to stay there with what just passed on Article 18. And I just, on behalf of the disabled veterans impacted by this, I want to thank the townspeople for your support on this article. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. King. Now, I saw Ms. Dunnett raising your hand, but I don't know, were you kind of addressed at the meeting? Okay, all right, Ms. Kelly?
Kelly, 5 Taurus Lane, and I'm just going to preface this with my father is a disabled veteran, so this is not, I just noticed in the FinCom recommendations that they were asking to delay the start of the HERO Act to fiscal year 27. Just wondering what FinCom's recommendation is for this and why and how this affects future budget discussion. Again, my father's a disabled vet, so I'm not against it at all. Just wondering why this is in there for FinCom. Thank you.
All right, the question is calls for a
Yep,
what, the
so
FinCom recommendation?
On the FinCom recommendation, we did try. When we get to the actual budgets, we're talking about, if the override doesn't pass, we're talking about laying people off. By delaying this for a year, we have the potential maybe to reduce the requirement in the recap sheet. We won't need to apply that $75,000 this year. And that could help either reduce what the override dollars are, or it could save jobs because we have more money to pay the employees and we can retain the good employees in the town hall. That was the reason for delaying it for a year, because we do need a much bigger, better look forward, because as we get to next year, the budget's going to be very, very tight. With everything that was cut from this year, there's going to be a lot more dollars needing to get added back into the budget next year, and so that would be a better time to have a full solution across all parts, including the Veterans HERO Act.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Ms. Schifrin.
Currently, we have $75,000 in the budget. That's what the HEROES Act is for us here in town. We expend that. We get back from the state 80% of the $75,000. To double it, it would double to $150,000 that would be allowed in our budget, but we still only get the 80% back on the first 75. There is nothing back from the state on the other 75,000. I'm just giving you information for clarification that that's what it is.
All right, comments come on the motion. It's not without financial consequences, but appears we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 19 say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no.
No.
That's pretty close. Gonna try that one more time. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no.
No.
All right, counters, I think we'll have to bring you up. It's a majority vote, right? I can't. No, this is too close. All right, all those, we got, Brian, you got Becky up with you? Okay, all right, you guys are doing the balcony. Gentlemen, you're doing the beginning here and the stage. So all those in favor of the motion on Article 19, please stand and be counted.
Oh my God, Betty Tenney is not standing.
Okay. 37? Okay. All those, okay. Okay. Yeah, even though I'm standing, I don't vote unless it's a tie. Okay, all those in opposition to the motion on Article 19, please stand. Who's wait? Okay. 59. All right.
Okay. John's got to break the tie. Oh, boy.
All right, vote is 81 in favor, 59 opposed. The motion carries. Now, we're going back to the budget, Article 11. It's in the warrant, or there is a handout for the budget, right? Oh, I'm sorry, Article 12 first.
Where's Article 12? Why did we skip 11?
So we're going to take up Article 12 first. And as long as it's not dependent on what is in the budget, right? Basically, that's a stock article, I think, to set the salaries. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to fix the salaries and compensation of all elected officers of the town as provided by Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 108, as amended and as appropriated in this warrant. We're taking any other action in relation thereto. Is a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to fix the salaries and compensation of all elected officers of the town as provided by Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 108, as amended and as appropriated in the warrant.
All right. Motion's made and seconded. Anything to be said? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. All right, Article 11. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds in the Treasury such sums as may be necessary to defray the charges and expenses of the town fiscal year 2026 pursuant to a detailed budget totaling $28,761,166 or any other sum on line 786, or take any other action in relation thereto, and to transfer a series of funds that are in the warrant. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator,
Ms. Goodrich.
I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate and transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sums necessary to defray the charges and expenses of the town for fiscal year 2026 pursuant to a detailed budget totaling $27,592,926 per line 805 of the budget as printed. Transfer from Title V MWPAT for the MWPAT department repayment, the amount of $20,879. Transfer from the West Townsend Reading Room for the purpose of operating the West Townsend Reading Room, the sum of $5,000. Transfer from ambulance receipts reserved for the purpose of operating the EMS, $700,000. Transfer from water enterprise for the purpose of the water department overhead, the sum of $444,651. For general government FY26, $1,649,936. For public safety, the sum of $4,186,036. For education, the sum of $16,795,463. For highways and streets, the sum of $812,793. For solid waste, the sum of $19,700. For human services, the sum of $507,284. For culture and recreation, the sum of $534,249. For debt service, the sum of $405,480. And for insurances, the sum of $2,711,986, for a total of $27,592,927.
Okay, the motion's made and seconded with the budget. We typically will go through the budget through the
Mr.
functional
Moderator,
segments.
if I may make a brief presentation.
Yes, Mr. Mui.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to give a brief overview of how we got to the budget that's being presented to you at the moment. Back in March, at a special town meeting, it was voted on to, allocate $200,000 from free cash, as well as $411,336 from the municipal budget to fund the school district assessment. At this point, it was abundantly clear to the select board and myself that cuts had to be made in order to come up with, something that resembles a balanced budget. So we went back to the various department heads to see what they could cut from their expenses. So every department head looked through all their expenses and cut as much as they could and still be able to, function at a decent level for FY26. We made all these cuts and we tried for an override vote in April for $625,000, which did not pass at the ballot. So we decided to take a look at some additional expenses. We took out trash, but certainly the Board of Health and the Finance Committee has come up with a plan to preserve curbside trash. So we are, the Select Board is requesting a smaller override of $258,827. This amount is solely dedicated to salaries and wages for all of our town employees. The Select Board has proposed cuts in all these functional segments that you see here that total up to the $258,827,000 override amount. In general government, we're proposing $27,619 in salary and wage reductions. Public safety, $138,404. Highway and streets, $63,395. Human services, $13,886. And culture and recreation, $15,523. If the override were to pass, to fund municipal salaries and wages, the average increase to the, average single-family valuation is $73.52 for the year. So that equates to roughly $6 a month that we're asking the voters to, to support all of our staff here in town. This is a breakdown on the right-hand side of the cuts we've made compared to the FY25 budget. In general government, we are looking at an 11% decrease. Public safety, a very modest 1.7% increase. Education, 6.24%. Highway and streets, a reduction of 8.26%. Solid waste, almost a 98% decrease because trash is no longer included in the tax levy. Human services, a reduction of 7.59%. Culture and recreation, 3.79%. Debt service, we're seeing an increase in 2.85%. And insurances, an increase of 9.36%, which equates to an overall increase of only 0.5% from the last fiscal year. So I think the Select Board and all the departments have, done a tremendous job in finding cuts where possible, but the cuts alone are not enough to, sustain the town. So the Select Board is requesting a override to, make sure all of our employees are paid, and that we don't see a reduction in services. Certainly in areas like highway and public safety, if they're losing staff, then you're going to see, significant decreases in the level of service that they're providing. Certainly in public safety, there might be increased response times, perhaps, lack of, coverage on certain shifts. And fire and EMS, I think you may start losing, valuable staff members that the fire chief has spent many years building up to the level it currently is at the moment. And, in highway, I think, if we're going to lose staff, then, I think the roads aren't going to be maintained, in a, modest, amount of time. So, these are, if the override doesn't pass, I think we're going to see some, significant reductions in service to the town folks.
Thank you, Mr. Mui. Gave me a little chance to get off my feet. All right. Again, I think the meeting has to decide how we're going to address the budget, whether we're going to vote on it in functional segments, and if that's the case, we'll review first general government and make any, if there's any changes in general government, we would have to entertain a motion for that, or if there's comments about general government, then we'll deal with that within that functional segment. If people want to deal with it on a department-by-department basis, we will do it on that way. So I'm going to see what comments people wish to make, and I'm going to recognize the Finance Committee because they did have a comment on the budget as proposed. Mr. Churchill?
Thank you, Mr. Monitor. Okay, the FinCom committee has worked very hard to figure out what's going on with your money. We came up with an alternative budget, and we would like to make a motion that that be considered at this time. There's an awful lot of things that are not being told to everyone in this room tonight. When we were working on the Finance Committee, we found a lot of disturbing things that were going on, and we couldn't get answers to them. So the Finance Committee came up with its own budget that we would like to present to the people today. One of the issues was the fact that the Board of Selectmen meeting has chosen to threaten the staff with losing their jobs or diminishing their salaries. We already have one casualty from that sitting in the back of the room. Would you please stand up, Katie? Our accountant has left, and we want to thank her for her years of helping us. She's gone now and will have to be replaced. I think losing jobs, thank you, Katie, should never be considered unless absolutely necessary. And what the FinCom discovered was losing these jobs was not absolutely necessary. So we'll take questions, I guess, right, Don?
Well, I'd like to know how the Finance Committee wants to address a changed budget. Right now, we have the printed budget from the selectmen, and unless you have an alternate budget that's finalized, I think we have to take any changes
We do.
as we go through this proposed budget.
We do.
Okay.
Oh, you're saying that we should give the changes per department?
Okay, does everybody have the alternate budget from the Finance Committee?
They should.
Okay. I think to try to be efficient about this, I think we need to address where your budget is different from the select boards. So
Okay.
I would propose that we proceed along those lines, just like we would if we were just going through the Select Board's budget and there's a question about some item or a motion to reduce it. I presume there are some instances where the Finance Committee's recommendations and the Selectmen's do align.
Yes, yes.
So
Yes.
if you can bring our attention to where they don't agree, I think that would be the most practical way to proceed.
Okay, to start out with, we are not asking for an override. So you're asking us to give you department by department where we differ?
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Kell?
Pardon me? I just want to note that the budget that we just presented in the motion is a budget without an override. We will be asking for an override in the special town meeting to supplement that budget so that we don't have to make the decreases that are in the budget that we just presented. So if you look at the Select Board budget, what was presented is in the far right column where it says fiscal year 26 with reductions. The override that we will vote on in the continuation of the special town meeting would be to enact the second column, fiscal year 26 with override. So just to clarify, the budget that you are voting on is for the selectmen, does not have an override. It does have reductions, but it does not have an override. There are reductions in every functional segment. So just note that.
Okay, Mr. Walker?
So the budget that we have from the Select Board, the far right column says percent change. It doesn't, it's not a number. Right, the FY26 is in the second column. She said the far right column.
I said the far right, the fiscal year 26 with reductions.
Right, there's no column that says that, though. Which,
Yeah.
where's that one? That's not the packet that I have.
It's the one that you should have received when you checked in to the meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's entitled Towns and Municipal Budget Fiscal Year 2026, dated 6/18/2025. Not what's in the old warrant.
So what is she saying? She's saying that we vote and then they'll do the override after we vote on it? I'm going to sit down. I'm unclear.
I'm sorry, what's your point of privilege? I can't hear you.
What page should we be on into the warrant?
If we, well, in the warrant, hopefully you have the handout, because right now we're going to be dealing with the budget. So to start with, we're starting with the Selectmen's handout on the budget. So you can disregard the warrant for now. And the question has been posed that we review the Selectmen's budget by reference to the FinCom's alternate budget. So we would have to go through it piece by piece to find out where the Selectmen's recommended budget varies from the Finance Committee's recommendation.
Mr. Moderator,
Ms. Schifrin?
so I'm just seeing the Finance Committee's budget is actually 200,000 more than what the Selectmen's budget is. So I'm not sure what they have reduced. They have reduced amounts, but they don't have what they're reduced for, just in the line items. So.
Point of
I'm not
information,
sure.
could
Does
the Select Board
everybody
put the
understand
recap sheet up so we can see
Hold-
what's
hold
changed?
on, Ms.
Sorry.
Please be
It
recognized.
doesn't make sense.
Did you finish, Ms. Schifrin?
It's,
All right. Ms. Priest?
Sorry, as a point of information, could we see the recap sheet, please? Because something clearly has changed on there, because based on your recap sheet of May 6th, we should have an almost $200,000 surplus, not need a $258,000 override. And that doesn't even include having indirect costs come back from trash or any of that. So I just am curious what changed on your recap. And maybe explain to the voters what the recap is and that this isn't the full budget.
Okay, question comes on the motion about the recap. The Selectman or Mr. Mui, do you have a?
Don, you want me to pull up the recap?
Yeah, I have the recap from May 6th, and if I use those numbers under additional amounts to be raised and other available funds, and then the budget number with reductions, it's over $167,000 surplus, not needing an override.
So I think one of the big differences I noticed in the FinCom's recap sheet is...
No, sorry, I'm comparing it to your recap sheet of May 6th. I'm using your numbers. I'm not using the FinCom's numbers.
Well, would you let Mr. Mui finish what he was going to say?
I noticed two big differences in the FinCom's budget in the recap sheet, which is both related to ARPA. ARPA for the HR manager as well as community services position, funding has been put in place in the recap sheet, as well as the ARPA for the Affordable Housing Trust for $100,000.
I believe with the FinCom one, you're looking at the wrong column. They only have $106,000 of the ARPA for salaries under the HR community service line. But I wasn't even using those numbers. I was using your numbers, which are lower.
Well,
can you project the recap so we can follow it?
Either way, the $106,000 for the ARPA HR position, it shouldn't be there. That's already been voted on by the select board to fund the position. So to put it in there, you're essentially taking away that position.
I'm not including that. I'm using the select board recap of May 6th. And I'm saying if I add those numbers with this budget, it shows there would be a very large surplus. And so I'm asking what changed on the recap sheet, if we could please see the recap sheet and get a picture of the budget.
Give me 2 seconds while I transfer this file to this flash drive. It's on a different, this is not my computer right here.
Point of order.
Okay, what's your point of order?
So based on the information that's been shared with us in the past few minutes, we've been presented multiple pages on multiple budgets. So based on what the information that's presented, we have a budget from FinCom and we have a budget from the Select Board. So if we're basing those two information to inform our decision, I feel as if we should be using those numbers. Unfortunately, I don't know what the May 6th information is. I only know what I have in front of me tonight. So we have a FinCom budget and we have a Select Board budget. So if FinCom is presenting it, we should be going based on what you already have suggested, line by line. So if we go line by line and we see the differences based on what FinCom's saying, then we'll be able to make a determination. So if the ARPA money is being incorporated, I have other comments based on that, but if we can do that based on each line. Because if we go back and forth, we're going to be here for quite a time. So what if we just continue with each line?
I have to agree, because I am losing the track of what we're talking about here. If we don't...
The recap sheet is the page with the columns on it that says outside of the omnibus, there are other things that we need to pay for, and there are other sources of revenue, and that's the complete picture of the budget, which ultimately determines if we have a surplus or a deficit.
Okay, so...
And it is an essential part, and my question is on the Select Board recap sheet, which is why I said, could you please explain to the voters what a recap sheet is? Because most voters think that this is our total budget. and they don't understand because they're not shown this information still, that there are other things that contribute to a surplus or a deficit. And it's a critical piece of developing a budget.
Okay, question comes on the motion relative to and I know the point of order is that it's very hard for us to deal with what we don't have in front of us. I guess that what I would like to know, based on Ms. Priest's question, is do we have a recap sheet that the
We
selectmen
do.
can?
Like I said, I was going to
So that we
transfer
can
it
see
before
it
I was
on the screen?
interrupted, so let me put that onto my flash drive so that we can continue.
Because the tax levy is one number and the budget's another number, and 2.5% of the budget doesn't equate all the time to 2.5% of the levy increase. It could be that, like, our levy increase is like $507,000. That's why they need to see the recap, because there's all these other things that they put on it. Is it in here? It is 2.5%. What is it, 2.5%? Dawn, is there a recap sheet in what is going on? Because this goes up 2.5%. They don't provide. There's 500,000 as a tax increase this year, plus 130,000 to growth. Isn't that part of the budget? No.
Okay, this is the recap related to tonight's budget being presented. So are we going through this line by line, or?
Well, I think we needed to know what the recap was, and I guess that informs some of us as to what other funds are out there, but I don't think that that really answers the question of our deciding what the budget should be. I think the points that folks may have based on their knowledge about the recap should be made as we go through the budget. Because I don't see how we're going to be able to bounce around all over the place without reference to a third issue here being the recap sheet and there being other monies there. I think they have to be dealt with as we deal with each department in the budget. And that's only my opinion. The meeting can do it however you'd like, but we would hopefully like to get out of here with the budget completed, and it's 10:10 now.
Can you scroll down?
So
I'm just trying to see
I
what
can't see that.
changed.
Why don't you go up
Want
to
me to
them?
scroll down?
Yeah, you have. Done.
I'm just gonna 291 is 51.
Say, Chief Shepherd.
No.
Nothing. Okay, here we go. My point of order is this. I'm not sure why we need to be drilling down into the recap fees right now. Are we going to do the alternate budget from the Finance Committee? Are we going to work with the Selectmen's budget? Or are we going to just continue to make this mired down and muddied up? I think we've got to keep it simple and basic and choose which budget we're going to discuss, and if we're going to debate the merits of recap or we're going to debate the merits of reductions and how the money is used. Other than that, we'll be here for breakfast in the morning. So my point of order is, the motion on the floor was which budget are we going to use? Are we going to discuss the Finance Committee's alternate budget, or are we going to discuss the Select Board budget as presented in the annual town meeting that we have in front of us?
All right. Thank you for the point of order, Chief Shepherd. There was a motion brought to my attention by the Finance Committee to to review the budget based on their budget, I believe, but
I thought the motion on the floor.
but there was no second on that.
Oh, yeah, there was.
No, there's.
On Article 11, there was
Well,
a
there was a
second.
budget, there was a motion to handle the budget based on the select board's budget.
So
Right.
my suggestion
They-
is, we
go
look
ahead.
at the select board's budget, and we, as we go through, we compare similar to what the,
That's, I agree. I mean, that's what I was trying to say before. And folks that have information about the recap and why certain items should not maybe be the way they are in the budget, but I don't see how we can,
It's a bigger issue than that. The recap, John, tells us how much money we have. And so, as a point of order, the recap sheet tells our community how much money there actually is. And so if we don't know how much that is, and there's a discrepancy from folks that have been following the budget, and a very simple logical question as to why there is a difference, that should be able to be answered. So that's one. And secondly, the FinCom budget actually goes department by department, and the Select Board budget has grouped the departments, and so you can't go department by department. There's not an equal representation to go back and forth. So if you are going to look at the Select Boards to compare it to the FinCom, you actually can't, because the FinCom has line by line, and the Select Board's asking you to roll up into categories, not single departments.
well,
So so it would have to be disaggregated into single departments. Yeah.
well, if I look at the selectmen's budget, it has departments within the functional segments, and we could go through that and by reference to those departments. I mean, we have Board of Selectmen, you know, are there any questions about the Board of Selectmen's budget based on whatever the FinCom recommends? If there's nothing to be said, then we can go on to the Finance Committee's budget. So, I mean, that's the only way I see us doing this. Because otherwise, we're going to be bouncing back and forth between different budgets, and no one's going to know what we're doing.
Can I just ask a completely separate question? Sorry. On page 3 of this packet, it shows fiscal...
All right, which packet is that, Kelly?
The slideshow. The Select Board slideshow, page 3. It shows that in fiscal year '25, in August 2025, the approved budget was $27,456,376. Oh, 27, you got me. The fiscal year '26, without the override, the delta between the first column and the third column is less than $140,000. Is that assessing the full 2.5% that we are allowed to by tax revenue?
Okay, question comes on the article as far as the...
I got to think we've taken more
Your
than
question is the number under fiscal year '26 with the override,
without the override.
the full amount that we can raise under the levy limit?
Mr. Moderator?
Mr.
Yes, Kelly, we are making use of the full 2.5%.
So 2.5% is only going to increase our budget by $140,000 on a $27 million budget?
So, you know, just because just because we make use of the full 2.5% over, property tax increase that we are allowed to by statute, doesn't mean that the budget necessarily goes up by 2.5%.
Oh, I understand that, but it doesn't seem like $140,000.
No, it's there. See, 507, 599 is the 2.5% increase plus the
What's your point of order?
130,000 in new growth.
I just want to make sure we're using all the money available to us.
Hold on, so the question is what relevance? I think the point that's being made is that the speakers here feel that there is other funds that are available based on the recap. Is that correct?
Mr. Moderator, my point of order is simply, I'm not sure who's actually running the meeting, if it's the Select Board, if it's the Finance Committee, if it's the moderator. or if it's this group that is trying to present or redevelop the entire budget like we witnessed in March. And I think some of us don't want to spend the entire night debating the revenue stream. We're trying to debate right now what the expended budget will be, and I believe it's up to the town to determine how they're going to fund that. Or are we going to look at both income streams, break it down with cherry sheets, break it down with excise, real estate tax, and discuss all of that, which I don't think is the appropriate place to do that. Today's forum is to discuss the expended operating budget for the town of Townsend.
With all due respect to Chief Shepherd, the voters deserve to know the entire picture of the budget before they're asked to write a check.
Okay.
And you can call me out of order, and with all due respect, we are owed the budget 7 days before town meeting, and we typically have a budget book with all of this information, including the recap in it, and we were provided a document to fill out from the Collins Center years ago. We are asking valid questions about how our money is being spent and what's in it, and sorry if it delays something. We are asking valid questions to make informed choices.
Dr. Roman Rivera.
172 Fitchburg Road, Townsend. I have two questions. I don't know if it was mentioned already or not, but does the Finance Committee recommend the budget that the Select Board is presenting to the town? If yes or no, if they could respond to the town, and if there's a possibility that we can vote on reviewing the Finance Committee's budget instead of the Select Board's budget.
I think it's unusual to do that because the FinCom can make recommendations, but this budget is proposed by the Select Board.
It's actually not true.
So,
Could I ask that Attorney Costa weigh in on this?
say it again, Ms. Kell.
I'm asking that Attorney Costa.
All right, Ms. Costa.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So the budget that's been presented, and we can debate prior practice in Townsend, charter requirements, financial policy requirements, but the budget that was referenced in the town meeting warrant is the Select Board's budget. Now, just because that's the Select Board's budget doesn't mean that this body has no ability to modify that budget. There are different ways in which that can occur. One way in which it can occur, and we heard the start of a motion from the FinCom, is that the Finance Committee could make a motion to replace that budget in its entirety with the Finance Committee's budget. That motion could be seconded and we could debate that. That's a challenge because we're now debating two different budgets and whether this body wants to adopt the FinCom's budget. To do that, we really have to work through every line item. The budget that's on the floor is the budget that was moved at the start of the article, which is the Select Board's budget. The moderator has discretion. I've seen this done different ways in different communities in terms of how we work through a budget, but I think that the moderator's tendency, as you expressed previously, is probably the most efficient way to do it, which is if the Finance Committee has objections to or alternate versions of a budget, whether it be functional segment by functional segment or department by department, that as we work through the budget that is on the floor at present, that was the subject of the motion, that was referenced in the warrant, the Select Board's budget, as we work through that, be it in functional segments or be it department by department, the Finance Committee can speak up and say, our alternate budget would provide a different number for that functional segment or for that department, and then this body can vote on whether to accept the number that was originally proposed by the Select Board or the number that's being proposed by the Finance Committee. And then we can see where we end up at the end. It's still going to be messy, because where you could end up at the end, if in some instances this body selects or accepts the Select Board's budget, and in other instances it accepts the FinCom's budget, what you might end up with is an unbalanced budget, because those numbers may not add up to the same number that we currently see at the bottom of the page on either budget.
Right. So I think one of the prerequisites that I think we have in order to figure out the budget is, without an override, how much money do we have to pay for town expenses? right? I think that's something of what the people are asking, what are the funds that we do have that's being appropriated? So, Nelson, I don't know if you can address that. I mean, in other words, we normally come into a budget session, and the FinCom and the selectmen have generally been able to say, okay, this is what we have in order to have a balanced budget. And they have included sources of funding which may include other things other than taxation, right? But if we go beyond that and we go beyond our levy limit, then something has got to give. We have to take away, if we're going to add to something, we have to take away from something else. So I think the question that the people are posing is an uncertainty about how much money we actually do have to spend.
The $27,592,926 before you does result in a balanced budget. But that's with, I want to caveat by saying that is with cuts to wages and salaries for town employees.
Okay. That's without the override. And I'm sorry, Mr. Mui, that total is $27,592,926? Okay.
Correct.
All right, Ms. Goodrich?
I feel it is prudent to understand why that 0.5% is there, because that is last year's budget that you see on the left-hand side occurred months after the tax levy was set. We voted on an amount last year, and then after that amount was voted on as a balanced budget, 1.3, however.
No, $130,000 from stabilization.
$130,000 was taken from stabilization and a whole bunch of other funds in order to get to that number you see. So the number you see for 2025 in August, that was not based on what we said at our annual town meeting. That had a whole bunch of other funds. None of this board was part of that. And that's why we only had 0.5% this year. And that's the danger of changing the budget after the tax levy's been set, because the overrides failed last year. And we had to come up with that money.
Okay, comments come on the motion. So I think, as I think a few people, town councils pointed out, we need to go forward, and I think the only way we can do that is by reference to the selectmen's budget, and to the extent that FinCom wants to make modifications to that, or anyone wants to make a modification, you move to amend that line item, and we go from there. Not accept what budget? Well, then what are you going to accept? Well, I think town council pointed out that we could do that, too. But I don't know if FinCom wants to do that, make that motion to adopt your budget as opposed to the select board's budget?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
All right, well, there's a written motion and a second. And what's the bottom line difference? Is there one?
Oh, yeah, there is. I can tell you what it is. It's right here on the paper.
So while we're waiting for the motion,
Oh, I have it.
in writing?
I have it. I have it like in 3 different places. So I would like to make a motion to amend the motion by changing the amount to $27,778,785 and replacing the omnibus budget printed in the warrant with the Finance Committee's omnibus budget to be voted on by departments.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Now, I have to observe that my understanding just reported is that the amount of money that the town has available to for its budget was $27,592,926. And the FinCom's budget is $27,778,785. So that's, what, roughly about 180,000 more?
185,853 more.
Okay. So I guess I may be exceeding my authority here. You folks can decide what you want to do. But it seems to me that that means we're going to not have a balanced budget, if I'm...
Mr. Moderator, if I may. Yes, I agree. I don't think this would result in a balanced budget because, as I alluded to before, there are some line items here in their recap sheet that specifically mentions the ARPA, the Human Resources position, as well as the ARPA housing, Affordable Housing Trust money. The Affordable Housing Trust money has been determined by our auditors as well as our accounting office that those funds are not available to be used for general fund purposes. And this was the opinion of our auditors as well as
It's not on their sheet. I think you're looking at the wrong sheet.
Excuse me?
I think you're looking at the wrong sheet because the FinCom's budget doesn't have $100,000 in the ARPA housing line. And Mr. Moderator, just point of information, our town administrator, when available funds were asked, said the total of the select board budget, not the actual available funds to be spent. And I think that FinCom has a balanced budget with no cuts, probably a $75,000 override now to fund the HERO Act, but I think it's worth seeing what they've put together because I don't think that there's 7 people sitting up there saying they have a balanced budget that's not balanced. And even if the ARPA funds for HR have to come off the sheet and the budget be reduced, it washes out that way, but it's still balanced.
Well, it seems that we either have to continue this debate, and we can, or we'll have to maybe come back at another time, but, yeah. Okay, the motion is to move to amend the motion under Article 11 by changing the amount to $27,778,785 and replacing the omnibus budget printed in the warrant with the Finance Committee's omnibus budget and to be voted on by departments. Which I guess if the people are satisfied in accepting the Finance Committee's budget, we don't have to do it by departments, but I would give the selectmen the same courtesy as I was prepared to give the Finance Committee, is to going through the Finance Committee's budget to say where their numbers don't coincide with the select boards. So with that in mind, I'm going to recognize Mr. Templeton. Oh, all right. Was it on? Not.
Sorry. I'm just saying, we spent a half hour going back and forth on what we're actually going to do. If we had started with the selectmen's budget and gone through those by department, we could have debated what was actually in those line items. Let's use the selectmen's budget, go through it. If the FinCom has an issue with it, bring it up.
Well,
but that's what's been in the
problem.
That's what's been
that was,
on the,
Mr. Temple. That was what we were attempting to do before, I think. And then we had lots of questions about this.
And another question I have.
What funds were available and why that became an issue, I'm not certain, because those things I think could have come up as we proceeded through the select board's budget. But now we have a motion to adopt the Finance Committee's budget. So I think the town has to debate that and vote on that. And again, we have to decide if we're going to go through with the Finance Committee's budget or the Selectmen's budget, and go through by line to vote the budget. We're not going to just carte blanche adopt the Finance Committee's budget at this point. This is just a question of which budget do we use, Selectmen's or the Finance Committee. Chief Shepherd.
So is the motion on the floor now to amend the Selectmen's budget to go to the Finance Committee, and are we open for discussion?
That's the motion right now.
Are we open for discussion?
We can discuss that motion, yes.
If I may?
Well, I think Ms. Craven was
Fine.
ahead of you in the terms of this debate. Ms. Craven?
So I would suggest that we go with the FinCom budget for a few reasons. That in listening to their meetings is that they are leaving the cuts to the department heads, and it's transparent. When asked of the selectmen in exactly what areas and what positions they would cut, they have said that they could not do that. But when presented with other municipalities, Franklin, Easton, where it was extremely specific and exactly which positions would be cut should they not get full funding, we were told we could not have that information. So they bundled their departments together and have them in there in such a way that they would have control over what get funded and what didn't, and not the department heads. And further, if we were to approve their budget and an override, it would mean that any of those funds could go to any of those departments that were bundled together, and we as taxpayers would not know. So perhaps we would want override money to go to fire. We would not be in control of that because they did not put their override questions in the way that is allowed by law that says X would be going to X department. So it's going to the general. They've rolled up all of their departments into these categories that we do not have transparency on, and it leaves us vulnerable to their decisions, just like we are beholden to their sole decision, the select board, to keep a position that will sunset, that's encumbering $106,000 that could offset money. Every other municipality has said, and the League of Cities and our own consultant has said that the funds from ARPA, as long as it's a position that has already existed in our budget prior to December 2024, that those funds could be used for any position. Our select board, I'm saying it blanketly, even though it's one individual, has said that she alone wants to keep that position. This has nothing to do with the person holding the position. It has to do with finances. Everyone has said that those funds could be used. So the FinCom budget does accommodate that. The $100,000 that they're talking about for the housing trust, that the select board was solely responsible for making sure that those funds were encumbered, and for some reason were not. Every other person that I have talked to has said that those funds can be used for something that was already contracted in the budget, and we have Guardian Alliance that was in the ARPA funds that it could be used for. I sent a message to the select board and the town administrator asking for them to call to give feedback. That was ignored. So I feel like, just like our other votes earlier tonight, is the select board is just ignoring the citizenry. The FinCom is listening, and they are trying to set a budget that does not affect the staff and that is the most prudent that it can be given the money that's available.
All right, comments coming on the motion. Chief Shepherd. And this is on the motion of whether we deal with the FinCom or the Selectmen's budget.
It's tired. How's this? Thank you. For the folks of the town meeting tonight, this is a very important and very critical piece. I disagree completely with going with the Finance Committee budget, and I'll be happy to share with you why. If we want to talk about transparency, we look at the Select Board budget. It has line by line by line. It's all broken apart. I received an email on the last meeting in the morning on the 10th of March, 6th of May, that said, take $90,000 out of your budget. It's up to you to figure out where it comes. That was arbitrary, not transparent. The only people that have come into the fire, EMS, and emergency management department to talk about our budget and our operation has been the Select Board. No one else has come in and talked to us. I will tell you, and I'm happy to describe it in detail tonight, what a $90,000 reduction looks like for each and every one of you in emergency services. I disagree completely how the approach has been on this. Now, if the Finance Committee has an approach, they have not included me as a department head for a very substantial budget. We have a $1.7 million budget. I have 60 people underneath my umbrella, and they've not once come to me and said, this is what we'd like to do, yet I got an email that said, take $90,000 out of your budget, wherever you take it, good luck. I will tell you that this is a very, very dangerous approach to change the direction on town meeting floor. If this is what you choose to do, that's great, we'll participate. If you say to me, as the chief of the fire department, EMS, and emergency management, you got to reduce your budget and good luck, you know, we'll show up if we have to with wheelbarrows and 5-gallon cans. However, it's a very, very dangerous process. And I come to you with that with 7 years of Finance Committee experience, 35 years on the fire department, and working this budget since December, not since March, not since May. We have gone through this process. It's complicated. There's 3 different budgets we go through. I think it's a circus. We start with a first budget, we go to a second budget, we go to an omnibus budget, then we present here. Now we've got 2 budgets to pick from. I believe we have to vote this motion down, go with the Select Board budget, and then address each section, each line item with those itemized line item breakdowns if you don't like them. But I think, and I am very much convinced, that going in this direction is a dangerous place to go.
Comments come on the motion. It appears to me that, and I think that we're having a hard time knowing exactly what we are voting on unless we are going off of one budget. I hate to say this, but it's 10:40, and I don't think we're going to conclude this tonight.
Mr. Moderator, if I may, I
Yeah.
am the HR department, and I feel as though this is probably the key difference between the 2 budgets. One of them eliminates the HR department, and one of them does not. And if I may have a few words, I would appreciate the time.
Go ahead.
I'm going to face this way because I'm really talking to them, if
Yeah.
that's okay with you. My name is Callie Huff, 16 Highland Street in Townsend. I have a 12-year-old daughter in the North Middlesex School District and a senior citizen who lives with us. That would be my mother, so I feel like I relate directly with a lot of you here. I am also the HR manager for the town of Townsend. Many people have said to me, get up there and defend yourself. Well, I'm not up here to defend myself. That would be very self-serving. I also do a damn good job, so I don't feel like I should need to do that. But what I will do is defend the role of human resources for the town of Townsend.
What's your point of order? I think, Ms. Huff, I would have to give you some time, but, you know, and because I think we're talking around things here, I think your position is obviously sort of a flashpoint for this meeting right now. So I'm going to give her some time to explain what she does, but I have to caution you that we are running out of time, and quite frankly, again, I don't think we're going to be able to get through this budget. But Ms. Huff, if you could give us about 2 minutes, 3 minutes. explanation.
Sure. You might hear things like they didn't have HR before. They did. It was a couple days a week. You might hear that other towns don't have HR. They do. There's a lot of misnomers that are sort of swirling around on social media right now that just simply are not true. My favorite one of all is that we service 40 people. In fact, that is really very far from the truth. We have, as last official count, 245 employees, minus the compensated volunteers such as election workers and swap volunteers. That's 191 employees. Now, an argument has been made that, really just looking at the numbers of the full-time employees, but I, for one, am a little bit sick of hearing that because the part-time employees, the peak-time employees, the on-call employees, they take up just as much time. The recruiting is the same amount of time. The vetting and onboarding, same amount of time. They get hurt the same way everybody else does. They need accommodations. They have children. They argue with their coworkers. They need accommodations. And they offboard the same. So we have 245 employees and one HR person. That would be me. I'll tell you, I don't even want to rattle off all of what we do. It's a lot. I'll rattle off FMLA, 23 acts and laws, workers' comp, annual audits, medical exams and drug screening, candidate selection process, onboarding, offboarding, policies and procedures, union negotiations, disciplinary process, ADA accommodations, annual performance reviews, open enrollment, and the list goes on. But I will skip to what I feel are the most urgent reasons why this town requires HR. One, we absorb several operational tasks as well as tricky personnel-related issues that would otherwise be handled by the department heads, and quite frankly, they are on skeleton crew, and they're working with less money. Two, we are compliance junkies, so we protect your tax dollars from things like regulatory non-compliance fees and frivolous lawsuits. Three, we are Switzerland. We are neutral, so we're a safe sounding board for the employees between various layers of management and the board. No offense. Four, I have an entire section of one cabinet devoted strictly to sensitive conversations, which otherwise would have, I guarantee you, amount to far more than what my salary has costed the town while here. And those issues have been mitigated, and we have had zero problems. I have a couple other points, but lastly, it just doesn't make sense. I am paid through ARPA funds. So if you look at the rules of that, 17.7 would say that if the funds were obligated for a purpose by December 31st, 2024, i.e. salary for HR, and by the way, this is not personal, whether it's me or someone else, the town needs HR, then those funds can no longer be further reallocated. In fact, many towns are worried that the federal treasury will be coming knocking on their doors, getting that money back because the money was used improperly. And it just doesn't make sense. I am paid through grant money. Moving my salary to someone else does not save the town any money whatsoever, and it eradicates a very important department that safeguards the employees and the town.
Mr. Moderator?
Yeah.
Doctor?
Can we move the question, please?
Okay, motion's been made to move the question on the motion. The motion is to pursue the Finance Committee's budget. That's the motion before us. For whatever that is, we'll have to vote and it looks like town council has a point to make, so I'm going to defer to him right now, but understanding motion to move the question would cut off debate.
And Mr. Moderator, I'm not going to offer any debate, just a point of order. To be clear, the motion that was made initially on Article 11 was to advance the Select Board's budget for the upcoming fiscal year. There was then an amendment to advance the FinCom's budget in lieu of the Select Board's budget. If that is voted, now that the question's been moved, that adopts the FinCom's budget. We're not choosing a budget to work off of. That's just a practical matter we decide as a town meeting. Which budget are we looking at as we work through the departments and discuss and deliberate? Once you move the motion and you vote the motion, you've adopted the budget.
Okay, now, I guess that's not how I understood the motion. I understood the motion that we were going to follow the FinCom's budget and go through that as we normally do, not that we were just adopting the Finance Committee's budget.
No, it was to adopt it.
Well, so there's a procedural conundrum here, because in our practice, even when it's the selectmen that are proposing the budget, and they did propose a budget, we do go through that, at least by functional segments, to see if there's any parts of it that the town meeting doesn't approve or wants to change. I think it's highly irregular for the town to simply adopt the budget without allowing that review of the different items in it. So I understood the FinCom to be saying, and I'll read it again, but that this is the same motion that the selectmen made. And we were proposing to do, with their budget, but we were proposing to review, as we normally do, their budget. But, so I took that the process we were following is that we were going to start with the FinCom's budget, and questions and comments could be made about that budget, not that we're just adopting it whole cloth. So I guess I'll ask for clarification from the Finance Committee. Is it your intention by this article to simply adopt your budget without reviewing it?
Without reviewing it, yes. Well,
I'm sorry, Don, I couldn't hear you. Mary Jane.
Hello? Yes.
Yes, which one is it? Just adopting?
I don't even know what the question is. It's what time? 11 o'clock?
Are you asking the town meeting to simply adopt your budget as is without any debate on the line items?
I would love that. Yeah, I'd like that. It's not my intention, but now that you mention it, that's a great idea. Yeah.
Okay, all right, hold on, folks. Let's get some clarification. I'm going to ask Mr. Hayes.
No, but we're not going to be able to go through it tonight.
Obviously, we're not going to do it tonight, but I want to set what budget we're going to review the next time we meet, because we're not doing it tonight. All right, then now we have the choice. We have the choice. We're going to vote on this now. We're going to vote on whether you want to review the Finance Committee's budget or the Selectmen's budget. And we're not doing it tonight, but we're going to set this in motion to decide what we're going to do. Well, right, we're going to move the question because we're not going to talk about this anymore. So, I just want to make sure you understand that we're moving the question on the motion of the Finance Committee to review their budget. I wanted to clarify that because Town Council had suggested that what we were doing was we were closing debate on a motion that would solely adopt the Finance Committee's budget whole cloth. And I don't believe that that was what we were thinking we were going to do.
Mr. Moderator, could you read the motion that the FinCom put forward?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter because your motion was the same thing, and we always do the same thing with the budget.
Okay,
a motion's made to adopt the budget, and then we review the budget.
Did they list the functional segments? Did they say what's going to be transferred? Could you read the motion? Because I believe it's different from ours.
It is.
And I am going to agree with Attorney Costa that if the motion was made to adopt their budget, So the wording of the motion is important.
I'll read the motion, and we'll put it to a vote. Well, no, I'm not gonna. We're gonna take up move the question on the motion, and I'll read the motion, and the town meeting can decide what you want to do. So, all those in favor of moving the question, say aye. Aye. Those.
Can we adjourn?
All right, we're voting on moving the question on whether to vote on the Finance Committee's motion to amend the budget article to adopt the Finance Committee's omnibus budget, to be voted on by departments. So that's what I understand. To be voted on by departments means we're going to be reviewing their omnibus budget by departments.
And that's in the motion.
That's in the motion. Point of order? No, no point of order. We're going to vote on moving the question on that article. All those in favor, and I want people to say whether you're voting yes on moving the question or not. Those in favor of moving the question, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. All right, the ayes have it. The question is moved. The question is, the FinCom moves that amend the motion by changing the amount to $27,778,785, replacing the ominous budget printed in the warrant with the Finance Committee's omnibus budget to be voted on by departments. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. No. The noes have it. That brings us back to the main motion, which is the selectmen's budget. So, per practice, we go through the, and Ms. Tenney, you want to say something?
I'd like to. Betty Mae Tenney, Elm Street. Obviously, you're all talking about time. I'm also concerned about time, and I'm not concerned about the hour. I'm concerned about July 1st. For those of you who don't know, I've managed the Townsend Military Band for 55 years. I have musicians that don't know if they're going to play concerts in July or August or not. My concern is, if we leave here tonight with things not finished, which is likely, where do those of us stand that have things that need to happen in July? Can we spend money? Do we just come to a halt? Do we wait till the next meeting? That's a question.
Well, unless there's a motion to adjourn to another date, which I think there is a plan for another date.
I didn't do it.
Don't worry, we have funds for that. How late do people want to stay here tonight?
Till it's done. No.
All right, well, if there is a motion to adjourn, we have to act on that, but unless there's a motion to adjourn, we're going to start going through the budget. So, there is, the first line is on the selectmen. Okay. Ms. Churchville.
Motion to adjourn till date certain.
All right, do we have a date? Ms. Tenney? I'm sorry.
May I ask just one question related to the selectmen's budget? I'm not quite clear. There's the approved, there's the with override, and there's with reductions. I notice that it varies. So I'm assuming even with an override, some of us are subject to a suggested reduction? Is that pretty much what it is? All right. If I'm
Right.
getting a nod, so I guess so.
I guess with reduction means that override doesn't pass.
But for
And that's the
example,
budget I understood is what we would be voting on.
I'm just looking at band concerts, for example, and it's the same either with the override or the reductions. Just something is cut, which makes a difference to me. That was why I was asking the question. A lot of
Okay.
areas it doesn't appear, but it does under band concerts.
Okay, I don't know if someone can answer that question more accurately than I can. Ms. Tenney wants to know whether or not what's going to affect the band concerts.
So in order to get to the balanced budget and the override we have, there are certain things that are cut in with or without an override.
Thank you for the answer.
No problem.
All right, and there was a motion to adjourn. And do we have a date for that adjournment?
Well, can we first ask the people if they want to stay for an hour to do this, or do they want to adjourn?
No.
Well, a motion to adjourn takes priority, but
Okay.
we need to know where we're going to adjourn to. It can be voted down, the people can decide that they want to stay, but,
But how do you make that decision?
Okay, well, do you think we could do Wednesday, the 25th? Tomorrow?
It's a holiday.
Can we do tomorrow?
Tomorrow is a holiday.
hold on, folks. I think we'll take direction from the select board here.
Possibly Monday. Possibly Monday.
Monday?
Yes.
The
Monday?
23rd?
Everybody okay with Monday?
What about Tuesday?
Tuesday's out. Monday or
that's-
Wednesday?
Not what I understood before. I thought we talked about it.
How many for Monday? How many for Wednesday? Okay, Monday. Can you make your motion to? Yeah.
All right.
There's a question from someone in the
The
audience
motion-
about, excuse me, there's a question about availability of the auditorium.
I'm sorry, someone has another question?
Question about availability of the facility for Monday.
Oh, okay. Does
Well,
anybody from the school know if the hall would be available on the 23rd?
We could meet
Well,
at Town Hall
we
as
could do
well.
it at Town Hall.
With the amount of people we had here tonight, we could meet at Town Hall. So Monday is good.
Okay.
Do you want to complete your motion for Monday at 7 PM? At 7 PM? Oh, we'll do it at Town Hall.
It'll be 7 o'clock. And is the proposed date to be the Monday now, or?
Monday, the
Monday, right? The 23rd? At Town Hall?
Yep.
No, because this meeting is being continued, basically.
Yeah.
And hopefully the notice will go up in the electronic signboard and on the town website.
Yes.
I think I'd ask for a friendly amendment so that we can continue, I guess we're in the annual town meeting, but we have to continue the special town meeting too. So I guess we continue the annual town meeting and then we go back to the special and continue that. So, all those in favor of adjourning and recessing the annual town meeting to Monday, June 23rd at 7 PM at Town Hall, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Is there a motion on the special town meeting?
Oh, yeah, but they didn't want to.
I hear everybody saying ditto, so I think, but... All right, motion's been made to recess the special town meeting till Monday, the 23rd at 7 PM. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. This meeting is adjourned till June 23rd.
Thank you, everyone.
Well...